So we had this paper to write, and me and my friend Ted, we went down to like the local shop. We were just trying to figure out what how we were going to tackle this paper to write while we were back in high school. And all of a sudden, this guy just stepped out of a phone box. And I'm sure the phone box wasn't there before, but it was just like a phone booth, and he just stepped out of it. He tried to introduce himself and said his name was Rufus, and he was telling us all these weird and wonderful things about how the music. And bear in mind that me and Ted, we can't even play music at the minute. With this age, we couldn't play any musical instruments. It was like how our music was going to save the world and, just make everything a peaceful and harmonious place. Sounded really bizarre. And then about 30 seconds later, all of a sudden, another phone booth just popped up out of nowhere, and out stepped me and Ted, and they convinced us that this was something that we should do and we should go along because they could think of the number that we had in our heads. It was like us from the future or something. It was so crazy. And like they said, tell us what number you're thinking of. And of course we were thinking of 69, because why wouldn't you think of 69? And yeah, it was just a whole thing. It was weird. But then we got in the phone booth, and man, we just traveled through time, and we met some famous people. We got the paper written. It was just this whole crazy journey. Really, really weird. Really weird. But yeah, that was just my weekend when I was back then. That's just how it was.
That is certainly quite wonky.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I have the sound. I have a couple sound sources that are a little messed up right now. The alert sound is coming out of the wrong source, so I'm trying to fix that right now, guys. I'm sorry. Brian, you're a little muted. Am I muted? You should be able to hear me.
Yeah, you should be able to hear him. I can hear Brian just fine, but that doesn't mean anything because we're in a Discord call. But yeah, I'm sure Brian can pump up that volume.
Yeah, I'll explain what the heck is going on in just a few moments. I'm just trying to make sure I can get this this alert sound from the right source. I don't know why.
Well, while you're doing that, I love Chiletas. Thank you very much for the 5 months of subs. He says, keep on keeping on, boys. And we absolutely will do that, sir. Thank you very much for that. Octagon8763 subscribed at tier 1 as well. And that's for 10 months now. Dude, 10 months. That's crazy. Review for the Tube dropped 100 bits. Thank you very much for the bits, my good sir. I genuinely appreciate those. Jay's imagination deserves respect. No, I just like films, man. I just like movies. Your walls are a little muted too. Yeah, they're a little cream.
But yeah, I have like aside from my desk, I have like nothing set up right now. Someone said I was quiet. Is that true? Am I quiet, guys?
Tectonic Plate as well subscribed for 24 months on a 24-month streak, and that puts us to 80% of the way through level 1 of the hype train, guys. Choo choo. Yeah, everyone's saying you're very quiet, Brian. Okay. Compared to me, you're really quiet. You need to pump up your volume, dude.
Okay.
Pump up the jam.
How is that? Is that any better, guys?
Oh, now I need to turn you down.
Turn me down more, because I'm about to turn myself up even more.
Oh, hold on. Okay, go.
Check. Is this any better?
I can still hear you nicely. That's all right. Vogon, thank you very, very much for the 100 bits. Genuinely appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Okay. Hopefully that sound setting sticks and Windows doesn't mess with me. Oh my gosh.
And Pio, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime sub as well. Tier 1 sub, thank you very much, dude. Thank you. That's Hype Train level 1 done. Thank you, guys. And IP9932 CD as well, subscribed on a 2-month streak. That's really, really nice. So subscribed for 9 months in total, so thank you. What are those? Enigma Hearts. They're quite cool.
Very nice.
Oh, okay. I think I got the notifications fixed.
Excellent. And Teal Technic as well. Thank you very much for 9 months of subscriptions. We really like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm the worst. I think everything's good now, though. If you guys can hear me and you can hear the alert notifications of the tasty, because I know you guys like that, let me know.
Tasty.
I'm a bit too loud now. Okay, hold on. That's an easy correction. Give me a second here.
Stop yelling. Yeah, Brian, what are you doing, man?
I am in an entirely new space. And I just reset everything up.
Ooh, very nice.
A1A, thank you very much for the 14 months of subscriptions, dude. He says, look at these two handsome bearded men. Where? Show me. I'd love to see them. Where?
Yeah, are they in chat?
Where am I looking?
They're probably in
yeah,
chat.
are they in chat somewhere? Yeah.
All right, how do I sound now, guys? And also, how does Jay sound? Do we sound balanced now? Am I still too loud? Am I too quiet? Let me know.
Let us know how we sound, guys. Let us know.
Okay, you sound good. A J could be 4% lower.
Mr. Petrov, behave.
Oh my. All right. A hair louder would be perfect. Sounds. Some of you guys are trolling me.
3.7% lower.
All right, I will turn it
low
up.
Enough?
I will turn it up. Literally a hair. One singular hair.
Jay looks so different now. What? I've not changed, man. I just do the show in a different place. I haven't changed. I'm just me.
You got the hat on again though, which I really like.
I do have the hat on again. Yeah.
Also,
well, everyone complained when I didn't wear it for my build stream last week. So.
Shout out to all the people that checked out the YouTube descriptions of the last 2 episode VODs.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm gonna be sprinkling in some classic Top Gear homages that I think should be kind of comical.
I've forgotten that you'd put those in. I saw them the other day again, and I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, no, it's funny stuff. It makes me feel really good. So I'm just gonna keep doing it. All right. Hopefully we're sounding pretty good now. I'm at 87% because 100 is definitely too loud.
Let's hope that this week as well we don't have any of the technical difficulties through Discord.
Yes. Everything seems to be balanced so far. I was a little worried about my upload speed because it's a bit lower than it was before, but it looks like I haven't dropped any frames yet. Everything seems to be going okay.
The bitrate is looking steady. It's looking nice and tasty.
Yeah. Tasty. All right.
Tasty.
I think we're good. I think I can finally stop fiddling around with this stuff and check out what's actually going on in chat.
Yeah. I Love Chilates is asking a question. Did either of us join the Backer 60? Sadly, I did not know, but it changed its name to the Squid, if I remember correctly, just before it launched. But yes, I didn't join it, no.
I did not join it either, but I also have a Baka 60, so I didn't really feel the need to join the Squid 60 as well. But, more power to you if you joined. I think it's a pretty cool board, and I like Chewwy a lot. He's a good dude.
It's a great board, and if I didn't have so many 60s already and need to pay for the bills and things like that with the warehouse and everything, then I would have absolutely joined because it was a great group buy to join as well. Good cause behind it. Yeah, Chewwy, good man.
Chewwy is certainly a great man.
He's a gentleman and a legend, and I would do unspeakable things to him.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, on that bombshell, let's start the show,
hair,
shall we?
It's that long hair, man. Sure.
I think I finally have things set up, so we're gonna move on and hope things are going well. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of Top Clack. I am your host, Quakemz, joined by, as usual, by my lovely co-host, Jay, who now wears a hat, which is fantastic,
yeah.
I believe. How are you doing today, Jay?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm tired, but it's all right. It's like 2 a.m. I'm sat here in the unit. It's nice and quiet. There's no one around. It's nice. Yeah, it's good.
2 a.m., you're an absolute madman.
I know. I don't know why I do this, but hey.
but you do, man. You're just that good of a guy.
Sure. Let's go with that.
All right. So just a quick update on kind of what's been going on. I was moving last week, so I wasn't really able to do the episode last week, and the last several days I've kind of injured my knee during the move, and because of that I haven't really been able to be as mobile as I'd like. So I haven't really been able to do a whole lot. So I've been spending a lot of my time resting. I can't really show you right now, but I have an ice pack on my left knee and I have a compression brace on my right knee. So if that gives you any indication of how my last week has been going, well, there you go. But trying to get back on things. The last couple days I've been able to walk a little bit easier, a little bit better. So I've been trying to kind of do small things. I got my desk kind of started to set up. I would give you a tour of the office, but it's literally just like boxes and boxes of everything everywhere surrounding the walls. It's completely awful. This is the most basic setup I could possibly do.
We need a whole new place tour when you settled in.
No. Once I have everything unpacked and set up the way I want, I will absolutely do a tour. I have no issues with that. But right now it would be quite lackluster, which is why you don't really see much behind me. You can kind of see a little Easter egg. Oh wait, no, it's over here actually. Little Easter egg over here is there's an LZ iron right there I need to rebuild, so that's kind of just chilling up against the wall.
Oh, yeah, I can just see that, yeah.
Those of you with really good eyes would have caught that. But so it's been a really hectic last couple weeks for me, but we're trying to get back on the top Clack horse and keep things going, because Jay and I have been really thoroughly enjoying the format change that we've been doing now. Now we're kind of back to doing... We're back to doing what we want, how we want it, and, people are still sticking around for the ride, and I think that's super duper awesome, and we're very, very thankful for that. So, shout out to all you guys.
Yeah. And thank you to Brez1623 for a 12-month streak, and to Orange Josh as well for 8-month subs. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We really, really appreciate all the bits, subs, anything else you guys do to show your support. It's genuinely very much appreciated. We can't thank you enough. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Very, very appreciate that. So we do have a couple things to talk about today, of course. And if you have some overall questions, you might want to save those a little bit later. We are going to round out the stream with a Q&A like we always do. But until then, we have some fun things to talk about. So we're going to be starting this week out with a segment that we like to call Our First Time. And I would love to put like a splash screen on the bottom, like a little lower third, so you guys can kind of see a little artwork there, which is coming, but... I am a terrible artist and designer, and I haven't been able to get to something like that yet. So I'm gonna harass some. Well, I'm not gonna harass people, but I'm gonna kindly ask a few people if they'd like to design something for us. And maybe if you're out there in chat and you want to design a little goofy lower third for some of our segments, reach out to me. Let me know. You don't have to do it for free. I will of course pay you. But
wait, people get paid?
Wait, no, you definitely work for free. All right, everyone works for free. So, with that in mind, we're gonna kind of move on here. We're gonna start with Our First Time, which is kind of one of our initial segments we're gonna be opening with here. And this time, we're going to be talking about meetups, and you might be wondering why we're going to be talking about meetups, and that will become more apparent after we talk a little bit and tell our stories of our first meetup / the kind of meetups that we planned. Because if I'm not mistaken, both of our first meetups were ones that we planned, right?
Oh, not quite. My second meetup was one that I planned, but my first one was slightly different. So I think, why don't you tell about yours? Because I know your first meetup was one where you planned it and attended, of course. So you tell us about that, Brian.
So it's kind of an interesting story, and some of you that I might have been around for several years in the community might have remembered some of the stuff that kind of went down. But the 2016 Seattle Mechanical Keyboard Meetup was the first and technically only one that I organized, and it was kind of an interesting ride, because at that point I'd only been in the community for maybe 2 years. I was just starting to kind of get into the custom world. I'd never been to a meetup. Meetups were just kind of at that point starting to gain some popularity. And it was quite fascinating. I, like a lot of budding keyboard enthusiasts, I just wanted to go type on some keyboards and meet some cool people and that stuff. And obviously, I still want to do that too. But
cool.
It feels like forever ago. I was just such a wee lad at that point, in the community. And I think I was a moderator for Mech Market at the time too.
Oh wow, that's just how long ago this is.
That was my at the time there was only like 4 of us, so that was my claim to fame, quote unquote. But it was a really interesting meetup for a couple of reasons, and not some of them less than savory. So there was actually some drama at the meetup, and I actually just had a conversation recently with someone about this as well, and I believe there's an article coming out soon. But so basically there was some theft happening at the first meetup, and this was, I think, for most people in the Seattle area, this was their first meetup, because the one before that only had a small handful of people, and it was in the back of a cafe in the summer and 110-degree weather, and it was just absolutely nuts. I wasn't at that one. Shout out to Mech Merlin, who I believe was. But yeah, the first really big Seattle Mechanical Keyboard Meetup was the one I did in 2016. I think we had somewhere around 100 people, maybe a little bit more than that at the time, which at the time awesome. was a pretty big deal. I mean, nowadays nowadays that's a normal meetup for anywhere almost, it seems. But It was fascinating because we had rented out a room in a community college, and we had some really interesting characters there. So we had J-Chan of Clack.com. I think Clack wasn't actually a site yet. I think he actually later opened that. He was just doing cables at the time, so obviously kind of a controversial person in the community, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it was interesting to have him there. Also, we had I'm gonna hopefully not butcher his name here. Someone can correct me if I do. Ethan Scudiver, the person that designed the solarized color palette.
Yeah.
So, and really eccentric guy, very, very interesting.
So just to be clear on that as well, that's the guy that invented the palette itself. So wherever you see Solarized Dark in your IDE or your text editor or wherever, he's the guy that did the whole colorway and created it from scratch. It's not just the guy behind the key set, because I think that was very much a J-Chen thing. He's the guy that designed the whole colorway. That's really cool. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So that was one of the highlights for me, because I got to talk a little bit with him. A really, really intelligent guy, really, really interesting guy. What really took me by surprise was actually the lineup of keyboards that he brought. So he was really kind of into not only the 66 key layout, but he was also really interested in customizing his switches to be specific weights for specific fingers. So kind of like something you see on the variable rate real force, for example, where depending on where you're typing, which finger is hitting which key, it's actually going to be a different weight, whether that's going to be 45 gram, 55 gram, or 35 gram, etc.
Sure, yeah.
He kind of took that up to the next level, which was kind of interesting. So he would have like rows, columns of specific weights to make sure that every time he hit it with a less strong finger, I guess, he'd be hitting a less strong switch spring. So it was a really interesting concept of that kind of molded particularly to his typing style.
That's really interesting.
So I walked over and he was taking keycaps off of one of his custom 66 keyboards, and I could see that he had a kind of like an arrangement of Gateron switches, and he had some Gateron clears in some of the spots, some Gateron reds, some Gateron yellows, and some Gateron blacks. So he had between 3 and 5, 3 and 6 switches across a single keyboard. And that was the ultimate typing experience for him. And that kind of blew me away at the time, because I had never never really thought about that before, and it was quite fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just quickly before we can carry on, a big shout out to Young Woody for the subscription, and also to Review for the Tube for the 185 bits. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I've always played around with having different switches for different, my modifier keys. I've had boards where my modifier keys have had heavier switches because they're larger keys, and my alphas have had lighter. But I've never considered doing it for each finger. I mean, admittedly, I don't use correct typing form, but I mean, that's something, isn't it? That's really intensive to try that kind of thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't actually watch him type. I don't know if he used proper typing form either, although I imagine a man like that probably would. But it sounded to me like in conversation it was just kind of molded to fit his typing style as well, and I thought that was just one of the most fascinating things I had heard at the time. Shout out to Review for the Tube for all those bits, man. 285. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bumping up the bits. Thank you, dude. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
So just while we're talking about this, when you set up this meetup, what kind of steps did you go through to set it up? Was it did you search out the venue yourself? Did you hire it? Did you get sponsors? How was all that kind of thing figured out?
So that it was a lot more basic and mundane than maybe a lot of the other meetups that are kind of more recent. A lot of people put a lot more effort into it. At this point in time, it was. I didn't really care about things like sponsorships. I just wanted to have the meetup. I wanted a decent place that could fit a decent amount of people, tables, and just for people to have a good time. I wasn't really focusing on a whole lot more than that. With that said, a lot of people did reach out to me and sent me some things to give away, and we did wind up giving away quite a few things at the meetup, if I recall. And it was a pretty good time overall. However... well, actually, I'll save that for a second. I'll just get back to your question. Some of the other steps we took. I created a Slack chat. Before Discord kind of blew up in our community. Everyone was still kind of using IRC at the time, but Slack was starting to kind of become a little bit bigger.
I remember IRC. Gosh, that brings back some memories.
Right? Yeah. Yep. So Slack chat was kind of on the rise within the keyboard community. Obviously, it had been around after before that, but I started a Seattle group for the Slack chat, and I had quite a few people join it. And not to my surprise, a lot of people were really nice, and they were willing to help out and however I needed. So I shamelessly used a lot of people from that server that were willing to go out, scout locations and stuff. So at the time. Some of you don't know this, actually. I'm not actually in Seattle. I'm a little ways away from Seattle, but Seattle is kind of like the central region where all the kind of keyboard enthusiasts congregate, just because it's such a densely packed area, and most of the people that are keyboard enthusiasts in Washington either live in Seattle or like in one of the major surrounding cities. So, I think the meetup technically wasn't even in Seattle. It was in an outlying city called Shoreline, which is, right outside of Seattle. But, so that aside, it was pretty easy for me because I didn't have to do all the work myself. If I would have had to go scout out locations and do all this and that, it certainly would have been a little bit tougher for me. But thankfully, I had a lot of help. So shout out to all the people that kind of helped with that. Cursor TN, special shout out to you because he did a lot for me on that as well. And it was a pretty good time. But back to kind of some of the more dramatic things that happened at the meetup. It was going fairly well until we had some theft happen, and this was really unfortunate because when someone told me what happened, I learned about it right after it happened, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, why the heck is that happening at a keyboard meetup? And like it was really interesting because we were walking around, we were typing on keyboards, having a good time. And a lot of people had just artisans. The artisans, were still a big thing even back then. And there were a lot of rare ones out there. We had a lot of key collective stuff on display, a lot of Booper, Sculpt, Retro Chick, a lot of those kind of more OG artisans, you could say. And a lot of the caps were quite valuable. And we had one user at the meetup that had, I forgot what board he had, but he had kind of like a fleet of Cosmo. The Booper and KK collaboration. Booper, yeah. He had several of those on this keyboard, and apparently someone just came up and just yoinked one and walked away. And I guess it was a really tricky situation because no one saw it happen, but we kind of assumed who it could have been. And these people, it was a group of three younger gentlemen, or I'm not going to call them gentlemen if they're actually thieves. 3 younger men, and one of them I claimed that they didn't speak English, and none of them wore name tags, and they all refused to check in. So I think that should have been a signal earlier on, but I didn't learn about that until later, sadly. But so basically what happened is I'm just having a good time typing on some keyboards, and someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, we just had like a keycap stolen. And I'm like, what the heck? How is that happening at a keyboard meetup? And I'm kind of looking around, and a lot of people just have their artisans and keycaps just all over the tables.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like it's so easy for someone to just like walk up and take one and walk away. And it's something I didn't really, I guess it's partially my fault for not really thinking about that beforehand. Like, what kind of, I guess, security measures should we have been employing, from the start of the meetup to make sure something that never happened? Because honestly, it never crossed my mind. I'm just trying to I was just trying to have a good time at the meetup, and I think everyone else was as well. And I don't think it really crossed anyone's mind because everyone was just so, casual about the boards and the keycaps they were putting on tables and just walking away. It wasn't a terribly large room, but it was kind of a surreal experience, just like witnessing that. And it got a little stranger because the owner of the board actually confronted the people that some thought might have taken the cap. But obviously, it's hard to do anything at that point, right? You can't legally search someone physically, and they just walked away, and all of us were just like, "What the heck?" And like nobody knew what to do, and it was such a weird moment, and I can't forget like that exact like frame of time in my mind. I don't know. It was strange, man. Thankfully, I haven't seen or heard of any other thefts at meetups preceding that one, or after that one rather. So that's good. But that was a really unfortunate incident that you guys will actually be able to read about in an article coming out very soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think like things like that can happen. I'm not aware of any thefts, any of the UK meetups that have ever happened. I don't think there ever has been one. But interestingly, actually, it's a year this weekend since I was in Seattle for the meetup last year as well, which is crazy when you think about it. That's already a year ago, and that was the biggest meetup I've ever been to, and I think it's one of the biggest meetups that there's been as well, documented in the community. And there was all those people. But if you think about just the thousands of pounds worth of or dollars worth of keyboards and keycap sets and artisans, I mean, there were people there that had 200-300 artisans on their table, more probably. I had like 7 or 8 boards. You had 15 or 20 boards. Just the sheer volume of cash money that sat there, and people do just trust it. You walk away, you go and see other people's boards, people go and play with your boards, and all of that kind of thing. And by and large, I think it's fine, but it's just those one-offs, those kind of small idiosyncrasies where you have people that do something like take a keycap off a board that just kind of spoils that kind of that wholeheartedness that there is at meetups. Because it's amazing that I mean, how many people were in Seattle last year? 350, 400, somewhere between that.
Between 3 and I think we had around 360, 370.
Yeah, and out of all of that, there's no thefts. People are leaving all of those boards laying out, walking around, milling, communicating, talking, meeting each other for the first time, just having a chat, getting to know each other, and it's just fine. But then you have that one instance where someone just does something that's a little bit uncouth, and it can have such a lasting effect as it's had on you. I mean, you can tell that you're still clearly upset about it, and that it still has a lot of negative connotations for you. So it's interesting how we can go from one side to the other.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the same trio of kids showed up at the meetup 1 year later, and at that point, I kept an eye on them, and we actually had a kind of a small group of people, a lot of the kind of volunteers and staff that were helping kind of set up the meetup. We kind of just kept an eye on a lot of people just to kind of see what's going on, our own stuff, everyone else's stuff, that sort of thing. And thankfully, we didn't have any thefts reported that time. So I think we did a pretty good job. So I think, sure. And I think because of the theft that did happen in the 2016 Seattle meetup, a lot of posts were made about it. So basically, what happened is we had huge Reddit posts that completely blew up on Reddit that were kind of just talking about the cap that were stolen, kind of what happened, some thoughts from like a bunch of different people, and shout out to Key Collective because they decided to send the person that had the cap stolen something like even rarer. They sent them like a one-off of like a Cosmo, so it was like a very special thing in that case. Really cool. So it was there. I mean, to some extent, there was kind of a happy ending in a way, but obviously, you still don't want to see theft at Meetup because that is just absolutely ridiculous. Of course, while we talk about this, chat, if you guys have any good or bad stories about meetups that you've attended or organized, be sure to put those in chat as well. We're curious to see your thoughts too.
Yeah, tell us, guys. Tell us what your experiences of meetups are. I mean, my first meetup was one in London. I think it was either 2017 or 2018. I left it quite late. I'd been part of the community for a while and been doing a few other things. And I went along, and it was this. I think at the time it was the largest meetup that had happened in the UK, but there was still only about 50 people, something like that. And it was in this really small room in the basement of a hotel, and there was no windows, there was no natural light. It was really stuffy. I got there a little bit late, struggling for desk space to try and set up my keyboards, and I ended up like a meetup. I ended up in a corner of a room. So if you imagine like desks pushed into a corner of a room, and I ended up across the corner, and I had to try and lay everything out across the corner. But it was really interesting. I got to meet a ton of great people. So Matt, the Pokemon kid, who you've probably seen in something like Discord, the guy behind the Ace of Spades keyboard, he was running it with a guy called Will or Pappy, and I got to meet them for the first time. They were running the Discord server for the UK, and it was just genuinely a really good time. I also met Pexon behind Pexon Cables. That was the first time I met him, and Zondat as well. Zondat was there. Although I'd actually met Zondat a few weeks before because Zondat wanted to take a board board to that meetup. He had a prototype board he wanted to take to the meetup, and he didn't have a stab wire. So he was messaging around in the Discord, like, has anyone got a 6.25U or a 7U stab wire or whatever it was? And I was like, oh yeah, I've got one. Do you want me to post it out to you? And then we realized through chatting that we actually only live about an hour away from each other. He's like, do you know what? Rather than you post it to me, I'm just going to drive over and get it. So Zonda just appeared at my house at like 10 p.m. one night randomly in the middle of a week. That was the first time we met, just to try and get hold of a stab wire for this prototype build. And the meetup was great. It was a couple of hours on the train down to London, stayed in the hotel the night before. A couple of people went out for drinks the night before. It was a really good camaraderie, lots of nice people to chat to. Some people who just wanted to be there, didn't particularly want to talk or anything, but just sit and absorb, and that's cool as well. That was the time when I took the Hyper 7 to a meetup as well. The only time I've taken a Hyper 7 to the meetup, and I was lucky enough to win board of the show. So in the UK meetups, we have awards like best in show, and we have first, second, and third, and like best sounding keyboard, and all of these other things that we've done in the past, as well as mini competitions like guess the switch and stuff with prizes donated. And I was lucky enough to win best in show with Hyper 7. People really liked that board at the time.
Winning Desk Authority Board of the Year wasn't good enough for you, huh, Jay?
I came second in Desk Authority Board of the Year. Second.
Oh, was it?
Okay. Yeah, for 20. Yeah, it was second place for that. I can't remember what beat me actually. I know that I on the Desk Authority Awards I got second place for Hyper 7, but the amount of votes I got for that was more than any other entry for any other part of the competition. Even the winners in the other categories, I got more votes for it, which is crazy. It just shows how tight that one was for board and show. So yeah, it was just a genuinely really good meetup, and we went out for dinner afterwards as well. I remember going out for dinner afterwards, and yeah, it was just really, really interesting. And I wasn't sure what to expect, because I'd kind of like seen videos and screenshots. I think I'd seen a Norbauer video of a meetup in the US at some point. I think it might have been KeyCon, or maybe it was even Seattle. And I was kind of not sure what to experience or what to expect. And I'd seen pictures of the earlier UK meetups, and this was the first one where we'd kind of gone upmarket and gone to a hotel. Before that, it had always been in maker spaces or coffee shops, and it'd been 10, 15 people. So this was a really big thing for the UK community at the time. And it was honestly one of the nicest days I've ever had, just spending the time. My wife went with me. We just took the trip down to London. We met up with Yankar as well. So I'd been talking to Yankar a lot, who designed the NK65 PCB, amongst others. And we met up. He'd 3D printed me a Datsun, because he knew I had a Datsun, which was really cool of him. And he brought that along as well. So he did like a low poly model of a Datsun. They're still on my windowsill at home, actually. I keep that. He brought that along for me. I took some other bits and pieces down for other people. It was just genuinely a really, really good day. And yeah, that was like the halcyon days of keyboards for me. That was kind of like when I had some of the most fun in the hobby, I think.
Yeah, then learning. I feel like learning and just kind of experiencing all the things that you have never been able to experience before is a really interesting thing in the hobby. And I think everyone's kind of first meetup maybe goes slightly similarly, in that like you're not really expecting to try so many different things. And I know that's what it was like for me too, because at this point I'd only had I guess there'd still be a large handful of keyboards, but at the first meetup that I did, it was my first time trying an IBM Model F. It was my first real kind of time putting some time into Alps. I remember Mech Merlin, I believe it was there, and he had a very interesting 60% Brown Alps custom with DCS Alpine Winter, and it was lubed. It had some kind of silencing method on it as well, and I just fell in love with that board, and that started my my year-long rabbit hole of Alps acquiring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still an Alps fan. Brown Alps are my jam. I think boards that stood out at that meeting for me was the original run of the E6 V2. So there was a guy in the UK community called AK Fire, also called Ken. He now lives in Japan, and he's still doing cool keyboard things. Although he had an accident quite recently. So Ken, if you watch this, I don't know if you will, but if you are, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're feeling better. And he had an E6 V2, and it had the quote on the badge, "So say we all." Some of you will get that reference, some of you won't. If you get it, cool. And that was kind of like the first high-end custom that I remember trying on that day. I'm sure there were lots more in the room, but that was the board that stuck out to me. And I'd got some relatively nice boards at that point, but that was the first board that I thought, yeah, I need to take a step up in terms of the boards that I'm buying. And I just remember trying it and falling in love with it. And he had this really, really cool high pro Topra board as well, which used a mix of about 6 different boards worth of keycaps to try and fit it on one keyboard. And yeah, just some really, really cool stuff there. Yeah, man, that feels like so long ago now. And ironically, the second meetup that I went to was one that I arranged, and that was less than 5 months later. So that was in, I think that was in the January, and then one of the things that we realized quite quickly after that was that the UK was kind of split. Like, travel's not difficult here, but people don't see travel the same way as people in America do. So for you guys in America, traveling 4 or 5 hours is kind of expected because America's so big. The UK kind of doesn't like doing that, and London seems like a big, faraway place for everyone in the north of the country, even though it's only 2 hours on the train. So everyone kind of feels like it's a long way to go, and it's a big trip and everything else, and you have to plan it. So I thought, well, we should do like a mini meet up north, like have like a room and get a small number of people there. So I rented a hotel room out in Leeds, which is kind of one of the northern cities in Yorkshire, my hometown. And we had it had like a sky view across the whole of the city. So it was like up at the top of the building. It wasn't quite a penthouse, but it was quite up at the top of the building. You could see all across the city from there. Bar right outside, which was really important. The bar was on the same floor, which is always really important in my book. Yeah. And that was the first time I met Chris Swires and a few other people. He came along. And I just got married as well a couple of days before. Like I'd literally been back off honeymoon for 3 days. I think I got back off honeymoon on the 22nd of May, and it was on the 26th or 28th of May was the meetup. So it was like really rushed. I was coming back, and I like everything to arrange with the hotel and everything just a couple of days after getting back off my honeymoon. And I think we ended up with the same number of people attend that, even though it was supposed to be a mini meet, as went to the London meet, which was really, really interesting. And from there, the meetups have kind of ramped up and grown by 50 people every time we've had one in the UK. So, I think we're on track to have 200 people at the next one, which for the UK is absolutely huge.
That's pretty enormous.
It's massive. Yeah, and it went really well. I spent far too much money in the bar. When I got my bar tab at the end of the day, it was split between me and Chris Swires, and I remember us both looking at each other and thinking, how much have we had to drink today? That was really bad, because we started drinking about 11 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
and
no.
It was really bad. Yeah, so
it's not going to be cheap as soon as the bar all day.
We'd been there like quite early, and as soon as the bar opened, he was like, "Do you have a beer?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's have a beer." So we just kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and man, that was a rough day. The bar bill was something, to say the least. So that was my second meetup, and honestly, it was a lot more work than the first, because the first I just turned up and enjoyed it. But it gave me a lot more respect for people that arrange the meetups and everything else, because the amount of work that goes into them is absolutely huge. Just the logistics, name badges and freebies and giveaways, and arranging who's winning prizes and how tables are going to be set up, and who's paying the bills and how all the money gets sorted, and all of that. It just gave me huge respect for anyone who wants to take the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean it's a production now, basically, and it feels like right, like it's kind of just evolved into that, where like you have to have giveaways, and you have to have this and that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, but like it's almost commonplace for meetups now to have all these things and all this support. And at the end of the day, I think we definitely have to keep in mind that meetups are really just about the people, and they're about the keyboards. And if you're just there to like win things, for example, I think you're not really approaching the meetup with the right mindset. Yeah, so that's what I'll say about that. Shout out to ICBEC for the sub earlier. Missed that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. And really appreciate the subs.
Yeah, lots of subs coming in today. Thanks, guys. And all right, so let's move on to kind of why we started talking about meetups, because you guys might be wondering, with the current state of the world, America in particular, why the heck are we talking about meetups? Because you probably can't go to them, because chances are you might be on lockdown in some fashion. I know I am here, so...
Yeah, my city's just, as of midnight today, so about 2.5 hours ago, introduced lockdown measures again, so we are fully under lockdown again.
Yep, as of today, the 30th, as well for us here in Washington, we are definitely on a much more restricted access than we were before.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to the actual topic that we're going to talk about this, which are virtual meetups. And just a little bit about them, because virtual meetups, it seems like a really simple concept, but I think there's a little bit more to unpack there. And I believe there are a handful of fantastic freaking people in the community that are doing a really good job of that right now.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
we're going to talk a little bit about... I was about to say Thok Talk, because that's what it was called. But Langelandia pulled the old switcheroo on us literally moments before the show.
The rug was under our feet. Literally, the rug was under our feet, and he yanked it.
You know when someone fancy tries to pull out like a tablecloth while leaving all the food still there. So Langelandia basically did that, but all the food came off and flew over everyone, and it's all over everywhere now. Oh, he's in chat too. Fantastic. No, I'm just giving you crap, obviously. Langelandia, one of my favorite people in the community, super amazing guy, and him and some others have been putting together what they are now calling Clack Fancy, which is a virtual meetup area, starting with a Discord. I believe they have an Instagram and potentially other outlets coming soon.
However, I'm going to drop some links. Yeah,
feel free to drop some links. So, guys, if you're interested in attending some virtual meetups, I highly suggest you join that server. It is already and is still currently being set up as a virtual meetup area, and it's looking pretty interesting so far. They're scheduling the first meetup to be on August 12th, so under 2 weeks away, guys, for their first virtual meetup. And I think it's going to be pretty freaking awesome. I'm planning to attend. I can do it right from my desk. I mean, let's be real. How easy is that? So, obviously...
And I like easy.
Yeah. So, obviously, it's going to be a little different, because generally you go to a meetup to try some keyboards physically, to type on them, see what you might like. That's obviously going to be quite a bit more difficult here, so we can't we can't really do that, unfortunately. However, I still think it is a great opportunity for the community, and it is a really good thing for a lot of people to do, to just come together, talk about keyboards. I know a lot of people do this anyways, just in their various Discord servers and whatever, but I feel like not enough people actually join a voice chat, or like a little bit of a stream, or turn on their camera, show off some keyboards, talk about them. I feel like that doesn't really happen for the community, and I'm really excited to see kind of how this plays out, because I'm kind of going in blind here, and I'm really excited for it. I got a bunch of boards next to me. I'm anxious to get in there and see what this kind of virtual meetup can be like, because it can be a really powerful thing. And I think now more than ever, with a lot of the issues that we're having in the world and in America, and just it's a hard life for a lot of people right now. And, like we've been talking about, and like some of the other streamers have been streaming about lately, mental health is kind of a big deal. And I feel like
absolutely,
if we can kind of be there for each other, and, even if it's just something simple like a virtual meetup, and we just go there and you hang out, and, you just talk to a couple people, show off one of your keyboards, check out some other people's keyboards, maybe listen to a sound test or two. Maybe play a game, enter a giveaway, something like that. I feel like it's just a good sense of community for everyone to kind of come together in this kind of event, and I'm really looking forward to it. And shout out, of course, to Langelandia and crew for setting up this server for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea, and it gives a chance for the community to come together a little bit, even if they can't physically come together. It gives us a kind of, a bit of a level playing field. Everyone can go and join these kind of remote sessions, and it's no different to how many people are working from home. We can do meetups from home now as well, guys. We can do this. We can go along to these. We can attend them. We can engage in the activities, and it gives a lot of good things and good feelings to a lot of people as well. So. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'd love to join it, and yeah, I can't wait to see what comes of it. I think it's a great idea, and to everyone who's involved in creating something like this and putting the structure behind it, thank you. Just big thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Everyone in chat, are you planning to attend? Is anyone planning on doing this? I believe it's on a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Wednesday the 12th. Yes, it is. So hopefully I will be attending that as well. Definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much for the 140 bits review for the tube. Appreciate that, my friend. And Zerkowski is saying Jay's video is delayed from the audio. Is that true?
I was literally just typing a response to him. Yeah.
Cool.
So if it is, I apologize, Zakowski. Literally, we are at the whim of technology here. So we have to use video chat to be able to put Brian and I on the same show because there is about 4,000 miles between us, maybe more. So yeah, we are quite a way around the world from each other. So we apologize if there is some slight technical difficulties, but yeah, we have what we've got, I'm afraid.
We're going to be trying to work this out as I continue to kind of get things set up. Now that I have a little bit more free time and I can kind of move around a little bit, my knees aren't quite as busted as they were days ago. I'm definitely going to be working on some things, getting everything set up. So just kind of bear with us, guys. I know it's a little janky today. And I know it kind of has been janky for a couple days
now. See how many miles there are between us. Yeah. I'm going to use your old address because I don't know your new one.
It's the same, basically. It's almost right. It's right down the street.
Okay, cool. So let's see.
All right, quick maths.
6,400 miles. There you go.
Oh, Langelandia. It's okay. We still love you. I know that was very last minute. I gotta be honest, though. I think I prefer the name Thought Talk over Clack Fancy, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, we should get Langelandia to explain what Clack Fancy means and what's behind that. So Langelandia, explain in chat. Give us a bit of rundown about what Clack Fancy means.
I was trying to figure it out, but man, apparently I'm not fancy enough. It's like cat fancy? What is cat fancy?
I thought it was cat ugly.
I guess I'm gonna have to look up what cat fancy is, aren't I?
Oh, interesting. I've just scrolled down on that website and it says by flight the difference between you and I if we were going to fly is 7,448 miles.
Sounds about right.
There we go. Yeah.
Cat Fancy is a North American monthly magazine dedicated to cats. Okay.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I feel like I need to subscribe to that.
How does Brian not know Cat Fancy? Says I'm not good at life, apparently. You guys are silly. Someone earlier was asking about GMK, the revised GMK stabilizers. That's not something we're talking about today. We don't actually have any updated information. The last information that I got was back when I did the behind the keyboard interview with Living Speed Bump, Andy, who works at GMK. So if you want to go check out that VOD, it's on our YouTube, of course, linked below. And you can go check out there. We got quite a bit of information out of him, actually. So any information that I would have is going to be right in that video anyways.
Yeah, I think the TLDR for it is they're still working on it, and they'll release them when they're ready.
Yep. All right. So yeah, virtual meetups, guys, coming to a Discord near you. Mark your calendars for the 12th.
Clack Fancy. Did Langelandia tell us what Clack Fancy was? Oh, he said
he says
Clack
like
Fancy, but
so Clack Fancy would be like a keyboard magazine, which to me still doesn't really scream meetups. But hey, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, Googled Cat Fancy as well, and it looks amazing.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
I'm sorry, Lang. No, we love you. It's okay. It's okay. We should have brought Lang on the show today, so that way we don't have to grill him in chat. We could just talk to him.
we should get him on. Should we get him on video on audio just for a couple of minutes to tell us a bit more about it? Would you guys in chat like it if Langelandia came on just for 2 minutes to tell us a bit more about Clack Fancy?
Oh my! I don't know if I'm gonna have to break a lot of the cropping to be able to do that. So unfortunately,
you just bring him on audio on the audio.
No, I'd still have to like move a lot of stuff around, because we're not in a call, we're in a channel. Or I guess you could just bring him in the channel. If you do it, then I don't have to change anything.
The channel, yeah.
As long as you do it,
and we can go from there. Yeah.
Oh, he says audio would be stuffed AF. Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Well, another time.
Yeah, I'm not going to force you, Lang, but. We can do it if you want to do it. He said fine. He's coming on. Is he
doing it? Are we doing this? This is
This
classical.
is new Top Clack. This is how new Top Clack goes. Lang, I'm dragging you in now, dude.
Hopefully he has.
Hey, Lang.
Oh, perfect. Okay, the settings are right.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, man. How you doing? How you doing, Lang?
I'm doing okay, aside from the fact that apparently the last minute name we chose is garbage. That's good.
I did not use the term garbage.
Hey, take your problems up with Quakemz in private. I never said anything bad about it.
Don't worry, Top Clack, way worse name. Trust me. Clack Fancy,
man.
way better.
So,
I don't know.
I just sure.
Sorry, I'm just gonna say mean things to Lang because I'm a mean person.
Say mean things to him. Okay. You be mean to him. I'll be nice to him. We'll see who gets it.
Okay. We'll do a good
Lang,
cop, bad cop.
in 60 seconds or less, what's your pitch for Clack Fancy? Go.
So, in lieu of the fact that all of these in-person meetups are no longer happening because of the global pandemic, we wanted to provide one place where we could have regularly scheduled meetups, say once every other month, where folks could show off the new builds that they put together specifically so they could flex on their friends. They could share pictures of their pets. They could sing karaoke if they want. They could talk to people on voice and connect socially because everyone is so socially distant right now. So we just wanted to create a place where everyone could do that. That was a whole genesis of it. And I saw that KeyCon is bringing it virtually now too. So hopefully there's a lot of opportunities for anyone that's feeling, a little isolated or lonely or just wants to connect with their friends again.
Awesome. That sounds awesome.
I think I went over 60 seconds, but
I wasn't gonna keep you on the time.
We gotta kick you off right now because of it too. I'm sorry. That's just the way it goes. No, I'm kidding. However, in 10 seconds or less, tell us. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'll give you 30 seconds. Describe your favorite meal. I was going to say food,
my favorite,
but I want a favorite meal.
Describe my favorite meal. Well, that is a meal that I'm having with my wife. It is a large steak, a very wonderful Scotch or old-fashioned if I'm feeling sweet, some asparagus with hollandaise, and naughty times later. That's the perfect meal.
You are talking my language, good sir.
All right, I think a lot of people will probably agree with you there. Me being one of them. All right, well, fantastic. Joking aside, of course, I'm not going to grill you, I promise, but I will grill some asparagus for you. However,
that was good.
I do want to say,
you should be proud of that. That was good.
I know. I thought of that one on the fly. My brain is working today a little bit, just a little bit though. But no, I think I speak for everyone here when I say thank you so much, Lang, for doing this because I think this is a really, really amazing thing and it's definitely going to benefit a lot of people. And with a lot of the mental health issues that me and a lot of other people have been going through lately, I think it's really important to, like you said, socially connect at least on kind of some level because that interaction, that wholesome interaction with other people that give a damn, that are passionate like you, like the rest of us, and actually care about the keyboards, the hobbies, and the people in it. I think it's just a complete home run, and even if it does start off a little janky or something, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see how it goes.
Yeah,
well,
Thank you for bringing it to the community, man. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you all subscribe to Clack Fancy and enjoy your subscription to it. We will continue to put out monthly issues to keep you in the know about meetups and what's happening. So.
All right, I'm going to link it once more in chat, and Lang, of course, feel free to link it several more times in chat in our stead if you're going to stick around. And
of course, I'm going to stick around.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your steak, asparagus, hollandaise, Scotch, and naughty times.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream evening to me. That sounds fun. I'm coming around to yours for dinner, Lang.
I was about to say, how fast can I get there?
I'm just going to invite myself around. Yeah. It's only 7,500 miles. I can get that.
Well, the only problem is that the guest room I had to break down the bed, so you'll have to sleep with me.
I thought that was a plan anyways.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else you were expecting, but hey, whatever. We'll do this your way. It's all good. It's all good. We'll respect these boundaries.
All right. I'll stop taking over your show. Thank you very much.
It's totally
fine. Thank you very much, Lang. Thank you for being a sport and joining as well last minute like this.
Thanks for joining us during dinner.
I just do everything last minute. No worries.
Yeah, we've noticed.
we've noticed, but it's okay. We love you. Let's get some hearts in chat for Lang, guys, as he heads out here. Have a good one, man.
See you, Lang. Thanks, man. Oh, bless him. He's gone. There we go.
He's
Hearts in
fantastic.
chat for Lang, guys.
He really is fantastic. One of the best people I've ever met. And with that, I think we should probably move on to our next topic. Shall we, Jay?
Yeah, let's move on. I think that's a good ending to that first topic. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about something maybe a little bit more controversial. So, strap yourselves in and try to keep an open mind, of course, just like a lot of the topics that we talk about in the show today. Jay and I are not here to necessarily take sides or argue one way or the other. It's more of a, this is what's happening, and let's talk about it sort of approach. So just keep that in mind, guys. We're not trying to be mean or, unwholesome or unsavory. Just open your minds a bit, and let's just have some conversation, shall we?
Absolutely. And bear in mind, we'll play devil's advocate, so we might ask questions that might not necessarily be our views, and we might position things from a different viewpoint. Doesn't mean that that's our viewpoint. It just means we want to give a whole rounded view of what we're talking about. So just bear that in mind, guys, as we go through this.
Yep, absolutely. So what we're going to be talking about today is managing expectations within the community. Because this has been a topic that has been fairly controversial, especially over the last year or so, as it seems a lot of people are expecting perfection from everything. And while it's not necessarily a bad thing, I do think it's something that we can talk about and maybe expand a little bit on, as well as some other things as well. So let's just start out with something basic, Jay. How about the duality of renders? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So this is the pros and cons of renders as we see in the community. So over the past couple of years, we've seen that group buys and interest checks have gone from showing a keyboard layout to actual high definition, incredibly detailed and high quality renders. And the duality aspect of this is that they kind of show perfection. They show what is effectively unattainable. They show the correct colors with all of the correct settings in the background. They show all of the correct angles and everything else that you would expect of a render. But what we're finding is that people expect real life to match up with that, and quite often it doesn't, be that because they have different calibrations on their screen. They're expecting different things from the renders to what happens in real life. Light interacting with plastics and metals and other keyboard parts in different ways in real life compared to how they do in a render. So the duality aspect here is that we've got this really, really awesome, powerful tool which can give us a really good insight into what something's going to look like before it's produced, but then there might be some slight differences after production. And there are often people who complain or have an issue or challenge or query why their real-life product isn't the same as it is in the renders. This can be everything from color matching keycaps through to the finish on a keyboard, through to just how things look and feel when you've got them in front of you. There's a number of different aspects of this as well. And I think one of the things that the duality aspect here for me is that renders are a bit of a double-edged sword in that respect, because it gives you a really, really good insight into what you can expect something to look like. But then it does kind of set expectations, and people expect that perfection because the render shows perfection. And when you have, say it's a keycap set where it's a double shot molded process or a dye sublimated process that's very, very technical, very manual, and whilst it's quite repeatable, there is going to be some slight variances from keycap set to keycap set, for example. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong that these sets have deficiencies, but should we expect them to be render perfect? What do you guys in chat think? Do you think that the product should reflect what the render looks like and be absolutely spot on to the render, or do you appreciate that the render is kind of the ultimate epitome of what that product could be, and that it's it's a perfection that you will never attain in a real life product? Where do you guys sit on this? We're interested in your thoughts and where you'd like to go with this.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear from you guys, because you like us, you guys are consumers as well, and I think I can speak for a lot of the people here in saying that you've probably bought some product, whether it's a key set or something else, and it has been different than what you expected. And maybe you were happy with that. Maybe you like it more. Maybe you absolutely hate it. You despise it. That you just can't stand that it's not perfectly matching to what you expected out of the render. It'll be really interesting to see some of the experiences here. And while we'll probably talk a little bit more about it in a minute, I think there is definitely more to the process as well. Render is just kind of a piece of the puzzle. Then we also have things like color matching, where you kind of take it to the next step with the physical samples. So let's see what you guys in chat are thinking as well.
Yeah, so existentially yours reached out and he says, I think that the designer who color matches is the ultimate authority, but they should make a good faith effort to get their renders to match their vision. I agree, and I think if you go back a couple of years to something we talked about earlier on in the show, Solarized Dark, the renders for Solarized Dark were slightly different to what you would expect the Solarized Dark colors to be in an IDE or other layout or editor or whatever you want to use. But when the keycap set came, it was very, very different to what even the renders were. Now, it was a fantastic set in its own right, and it's still one of my favorite sets. I absolutely love the way it turned out, but it doesn't actually look anything like the original renders. So I think when we're color matching, I think there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration, and renders are just one part of them. And I think in terms of color matching, we actually have an interesting topic that we want to flesh out in a later stream. We'll just touch on briefly here, because we're now starting to see people like Nebulan, who are color matching experts. They do it for their day job, be hired by vendors such as Dixie and Nebulan are working together to actually try and make sure that the colors matched by GMK and other keycap manufacturers are absolutely spot on to what the Pantones or RAL colors or whatever source material they're using is, as close as it can physically be, and they have matched tolerances and everything else. So we want to get Nebulan on the show to talk about that at some point in the future. But I think it is a really, really key point that the ultimate person who does decide whether the samples, the plastic samples that they get, are correct or not. But I guess the question for me is, when you refer that back to the render, should we be using the render as the Bible, the gospel, the definitive of what we expect to be produced, or should they just be a guide?
Yeah, and a few people in chat, including Enigma, bring up a good point here, saying renders are imperfect inherently because the color varies so much based on the viewing screen, which is totally true. How many of us have perfectly calibrated screens? Honestly. How many people in the community? I mean, and I'm not talking about like the designers and the people actually working on the projects. I'm talking about just the people consuming the renders. People like you and I. People like most of the people in chat here. How perfectly color accurate are your screens, really, truly? What about when you look at something on your phone? What about when you look at something on another monitor, your laptop, perhaps? You know, I feel like it's not quite as easy to just say everyone sees the exact same thing when they look at a render. And obviously, this is a little bit out of my area of expertise, because as most of you know, I'm fairly colorblind, and you know, I just don't really care about colors these days. A lot of it due to that fact. But, you know, it is something worth considering. And a lot of people are very passionate about the colors. And, you know, you could make the argument that if a render looks a specific way, the product should look that way as well.
Yeah, and Enigma raises a good point around the colors. He says, I think releasing color code should be a must for those who are super strict about that kind of stuff, so they can see what it looks like in real life. And I absolutely agree. I think physical samples of colors are always going to be better than trying to view that on your screen. I mean, if you take any RAL code or Pantone code these days, and if you search for that in Google, you will see 15 different images with 15 different colors on. You can see that they're all different, irrespective of how your screen's calibrated, because there's such a difference in how those colors are digitized that it comes across quite differently. So I think physical samples are always a must for this kind of thing, and that's why a lot of keycaps are matched to them.
Yeah, for sure. But with that said, even with a lot of the physical samples, for example, most designers do get physical samples of their set. Let's say if they're designing with GMK, for instance, they do get physical samples of the keys that get approved or denied before the set actually goes into production, of course. So most people know this. But even if we're still getting those physical samples to the designers and the vendors that need them, how are we still getting the wrong colors on a production set?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because we've had what was the set recently that had the alphas, and this is a slightly different issue. This was where they were manufactured in the wrong color through what seems like a communication issue between the vendors and GMK. Was that not Ishtar? It was
Alter.
I can't remember.
I think it was Alter. It was the set that Switchmod ran.
Yes.
Yeah, which is. Yeah, and you know, obviously that can be a pretty big deal to a lot of people. So, and that's totally a valid point.
Yeah, I Love Chilatas comes up with a good point. He said that's why you need things like prototypes, a la InfiniKeys, if you really want to drive home the point of a design. Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because InfiniKey have been doing full sets of the production run before they do the production run. So they've done a full keycap set end to end. I know we had Langelandia on earlier on. He's got a set coming called 808 Boom, which, if you guys want to take a look at it, it'll be on Geekhack, and you can check it out in the usual places. And they already have a full keycap set as a prototype, because they wanted to make sure that the colors were up to their specifications and that the matching was as close as they could get it. So I think you're right. I Love Chilatas, prototypes are very important, and I think certainly with keyboards, prototypes have become more and more important over the years. There was a number of group buys that ran back in the day without actual prototypes of the keyboard, and people ran them and then had the board produced and fixed issues on the fly. But now very few interest checks go up before the prototypes are produced, or they go while the prototypes are in production, and people show off a real board irrespective of what the renders are like, just so that they can show the actual product, which is a really good way of doing it. And it does help to be able to see what those colors and things look like as well, to be able to show a physical sample off on stream. Might be different from everyone's camera, but you can kind of show it around different lights, or you can take 100 different pictures of the actual real world sample and try and get the colors really close. I know AIO3 did this with his high-end TKL that's coming. He had I think it's Andromeda, pictures from every different angle showing all the different curves and colors and how the light plays off it as well, which I thought was really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It is worth noting, as far as the physical samples go, it's certainly harder to kind of reproduce a prototype of like a double shot ABS set versus something like InfiniKey, which is obviously just die subbed. It's a little bit easier to pump out a full set sample, at least in that sense. But I totally agree. I think we should get to a point in the community. I feel like we are a large enough community with enough power in the community right now. Like, think of how much we've grown in terms of GMK's consumer base. We went from like a couple percent a few years ago, and now we're like 30% of their business, which is like absolutely nuts. And I feel like at that point we might have some pull to just be able to say like, hey, like, on some of these sets, or maybe all these sets that we're doing for you guys, like, can we get like a full sample first just to make sure everything's right? And then we kind of roll it out, as opposed to just sending, you know, a few caps of the colors, because it gives you an idea, sure, but like, you don't really know until you have the set in front of you, right? And until then, you know, and it's always been too late, because by the time you get it, that means it's already all shipped.
Yeah. Salvun in chat comes back to one of my points. He says, plenty of boards still get run without a proto. Ask me how I know. Defo.
Oh, Salvun.
In before he mentions Lodestone files again. Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, there's a reason, Salvun, sometimes why I don't send you files, because I want a proto, make sure everything's right before I send it to you to make the final production one. But you are right. I think it's interesting to see how many people do prototype things and how many people don't. And we are starting to see that more in the keycap world as well now, especially with InfiniKey, and I think with Cat as well. The number of samples you get with Cat keycaps seems to be quite significantly larger than what you get with GMK color matching. I don't know if anyone's ever asked if GMK would do a full set in advance, or, you know, multiple, like enough keycaps to lay out on a keyboard so you can get a view of what the base colors are going to look like, or anything like that, or if they just do a handful. It's interesting to see how that's going to change over time as well as we move through different manufacturers. But I do think that my personal view on this, irrespective of how we've played devil's advocate and stuff with questions, is that renders should be used as a guide. Yes, your end product should be close to the renders and what you've perceived the renders to be, but you shouldn't expect it to be 100% close, because your experience is going to be different depending on your viewing options, the screens that you're using. And a really good example of this is you can post a picture on Discord through your phone. If you look at that picture on your phone and then look at it on your monitor, the color gamut is going to be very different between the two, guaranteed, because the screens aren't calibrated the same. So, you know, it's always worthwhile making sure that you understand that the renders are usually an idealized positioning of the board or keycaps, whatever it is, and that there's going to be some physical differences based on light and how things interplay in material, and multiple other things as well.
Yeah, Jonah in chat actually brings up he says LOL, but I think this is totally a valid point. He says there should be a calibration guide when color choice is involved. And this is kind of ties into, like, we need maybe like a central structure that, like, I know this sounds totally off the wall and like insane because just based on the size of our community, but it would be kind of interesting to maybe have some kind of like authority on color matching, rather, where like all sets can kind of go through and they can be viewed under the exact same like color spectrum and gamut. Everything's calibrated perfectly. You know, you have like one team or something that's making sure everything is as accurate as it can possibly be, versus a designer just, you know, and their own. We don't know if the designer's, you know, monitor is calibrated right. We don't know if they actually like care about the physical samples. I mean, most of them probably do, let's be fair, but you know, we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes a lot of the time. But I feel like to have, you know, and you brought it up earlier, this new service that Nebulant has been doing, I think is a really big deal. It's a really big deal. It's monumental. It really is. And, you know, he's already done a few sets now, you know, for color accuracy, and I think a few of them are actually set to ship soon. I can't remember the first one that's going to hit the market. Someone in chat will probably get that up. But I know GMK Botanical is one of the first ones he worked on as well. Bingsu, thank you so much. So yeah, Bingsu and Botanical, I think, are the first two going to be hitting the market with Neb's kind of color accurate service. I don't know exactly what he's calling it. But, you know, Neb's a very intelligent guy, and he's very, very serious and very passionate about his colors. He has all the required equipment that he needs. He has everything calibrated the way it's supposed to be. He's a complete nerd when it comes to colors, and these are the kind of people, you know, you kind of want to be doing this kind of thing, right? And if we can kind of set up maybe an area, you know, where we have multiple people doing this, or kind of a team of people doing this, and I know I used the term authority earlier, which seems a little, maybe a little over the top, but, you know, just have something in place where people can at least be like, I'm a designer, here's my set, tell me what's wrong with it. Like, what do I need to change to get the colors the way they're supposed to be, or the way that I want them to be, or help me with this and that. And I think as a designer, I'm not a designer, of course, but as a designer, I think it's totally fine to reach out and ask for help from other people, or other people that, like, might know more than you about specific topics, like colors.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you know, you're not always in this alone, regardless of what you're going through, you know, in keyboards or in life, really. So it's something to keep in mind, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Nebulant's color services and maybe some other things on the horizon.
Yeah, and I've just dropped a link in chat, which is actually the GMK Botanical color matching document that Nebulant produced when he approved the colors, and it shows the difference. It shows all of the tests that he's gone through, the difference between the actual samples and the original base colors that they were based off, and everything else as well. And it's a really, really interesting read. A lot of it's technical and goes over my head a little bit, but there's some really interesting stuff in there. And we've seen this before as well, because it's not that long ago since we had people like Mito fly out to GMK in Germany from where he lives in Brazil to go and check out the color matching of GMK Laser. You know, the original round of Laser, he flew out there to make sure that the colors were right into his specification. He didn't want to wait for samples to be sent. He literally jumped on a plane, went to the head offices, and had them show him.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what you need to do, and I feel like a lot of people might not think it's a very serious thing, but, you know, to be honest, we're having a lot of sets hit the market that are pretty far off the renders. And, you know, it's something that a lot of people kind of want addressed, and I think that, you know, maybe there could be some ways to solve it, and, you know, we might not just have to sit there and deal with it. So it's interesting. Viperman GT2 in chat says, shouldn't they just look at and match to the color chart? I guess I'm not understanding how that could be difficult. Shouldn't the designers just pick the right color from the beginning? I mean, you'd think so, right? I mean, that's the easiest way to think about it and go about it. But no matter what happens, you know, at the end of the day, they don't always get the exact colors that they want. And whether that's, you know, an issue with the designer or with GMK, or that somewhere in the process along the way, it's hard to say. Sometimes it's hard to pinpoint. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we're not always getting sets that are anywhere even really close to what a lot of people are expecting.
And I think the difficulty here is that matching colors is not as easy as people expect it to be. When you have a printed sample of a color chart and you're trying to manufacture a plastic keycap to match that, that's not as easy as some people believe. It's absolutely achievable and it's doable, and the botanical data shows that it's absolutely achievable and doable, but it does take a lot of work to do. It's not a simple job to do that.
Yeah, a few people in chat bringing up like metal to plastic and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that's always
right,
difficult as well.
Different materials and different products. If you look at paints to anodization to Cerakote to plastics, you could try and create the same RAL code in all of them, for example, but they would all look slightly different once you had them in front of you, because light interacts with those different finishes in different ways, and the different materials that are underneath them react in different ways, and they take the color in different ways. And if you've ever painted a wall, if you try and paint a light color or a dark color, it's going to affect what the light color looks like. And if you try and, or if you have paint over a beige instead of a white, the end color is going to be slightly different. You have to take all of this kind of stuff into consideration. But color theory isn't hard, and I think it's great that we're seeing people with the skills that Nebulant has actually bring that into the community to say, actually, no, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to show you that the colors are right. And when you look at the images for GMK Botanical, the colors look spot on to the original RAL codes and everything else. I think Nebulant's done a fantastic job with that, and I can't shout him out highly enough. And I can't wait till we have him on the show to talk us through exactly how that's been done and achieved, and what steps he goes through.
Very nice.
I know Dixie Mech, of course, put out an article recently with Nebulant about the color matching process. I believe it was for Botanical, and I was kind of scanning through it rather, and it was a really interesting read. The parts that I was smart enough to understand. Obviously, I'm not an expert on color, so a lot of the terminology and characters and stuff are a little lost on me. But it's interesting to see people dive that far into it, because someone like me who hasn't really cared about colors really. It's kind of just colors are colors to me. Like, I care about the actual product, not the colors of it. But at the end of the day, colors are very much a science, and it's kind of cool to see people kind of take initiative on that. And I hope to see it more. And like you mentioned, I think it'll be really awesome to have Nebula on the show. I haven't actually asked him yet, but I definitely need to, and hopefully he'll agree, and he can kind of walk us through the process and kind of maybe why it's important, because it can be very important.
For sure. Yeah, and I think the more renders we see as well, and the other thing to bear in mind with this as well, I think a couple of people have mentioned this in chat, is that renders vary from person to person. Whoever's creating the renders, whatever specifications you give them, you'll end up with two slightly different results as well. Renders aren't perfect either. Where if you ask two different render gods that we've got in the community, say you asked Undercover Brother and Nathan Alphaman, there's going to be some slight differences between those renders, because when they come out, they've used different softwares, or they've used different parameters, or they've got their own setups and their own tweaks to how they put the scenes together. It's difficult to do. It really is difficult, and it shows that there's going to be a difference in the final product as well, because a render on a computer screen isn't actually what a piece of metal is going to look like in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, more than mad. Thank you so much for
says a good point here.
As well.
He says he doesn't color match his artisans. He makes his artisans with the anodizing he knows he can do and repeat. So he's got this. He's got set up with his anodizer where he knows what colors he can accurately and repeatedly maintain, and he sticks with those. And that's a great way of doing it, because that's a really consistent set. And I've had a few bits and pieces from Salvun over the years, and I can absolutely vouch that that is the case. And it's much more beneficial doing it that way, because Salvun has a baseline of what he expects to see, and he knows whether there's any deviation from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have a very fantastic artisan maker in the chat, IP9932CD, who I believe is, what's the studio name? Is it Tokepi? Is that what he goes by? Fantastic fellow, by the way. But he's been doing artisans for a while now, and I'm curious from the artisan perspective how the color matching is going, because obviously color matching artisans to specific sets is also something that we've been doing for a while now. It's huge. It's completely all the rage. Almost every set that launches has artisan collaborations, often several of them. So I'm curious to pick your brain as well, Colin. How's it been going for you guys? Do you guys have like a really easy process? Do you ever struggle with the color matching as well? Because obviously, if you're trying to color match an artisan, do you do it based off the renders before the set happens, or do you wait till the set ships and get the actual colors of the set and try to match those?
Yeah, or do you try and match it to the Pantones or the RALs, or okay, so he has a RAL and Pantone books and tries to match to those. Interesting. And then I guess it depends on how the set actually turns out.
Yeah, all depends on the runner. Yeah, and maybe we need some consistency. We need some kind of baselines of how to do everything. But I think that's a good start. It's a good start. You prefer to get actual chips? Yeah, I mean that's always ideal, right? It's got to be a rough process, though, right? It's got to be difficult to. How much time do people spend trying to color match these days? I feel like it's got to be a high amount. Salvun says, "I think we need to put up boundaries." I agree.
Well, what boundaries are you thinking, Salvun? Give us some examples of what you think would be good boundaries.
Yeah, and he says mini trials. Yeah, so I mean that's a lot of time spent. That's often some money and material spent. Add Salvun to the... Is that just going to be like a new thing where we just do this?
We can do that. Salvun, do you want to come on the show for 2 minutes?
If Salvun agrees, of course.
Yeah. If you want to come on the show, Salvun, audio only, and give us your 2-minute hot take on color matching and things like that, then we'd love to have you. Let us know if you're down for that.
Yeah, this could just be like a thing that we do, I guess.
Yeah, just drag people in. Yeah, Salvun, if you join any of the random voice channels in the Top Clack Discord, I will drag you into the meeting.
21 Solo says, fun. I love this. This is like raw, like unplanned Top Clack. This is what you guys are getting cool. Right now.
And hey, Salvun, welcome to the chat, man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Not bad. How are you doing? You doing all right?
I'm partially triggered.
You're partially triggered. All right,
well, tell us why. Give us your thoughts. Tell us what you think on this topic.
I think this is over the top. Personally, I think this shouldn't become a thing, because it's going to put strain and stress, and people are going to make promises they'll never be able to keep.
Okay.
And I'm already afraid of people now coming to, hey, I want to machine my case, and then you go into the whole thing and you spend hours on it, and then they're like, oh, I want it to match to this exact RAL color. And the moment someone sends me a RAL color, I'm already shaking, because that is not how anodizing works. That is not how color matching works. It's even buying RAL books, putting them side by side, you'll see a difference.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like this kind of ties back into the whole managing expectations and, what should we be doing? Or should we be striving for this kind of insane level of perfection? Or should we just maybe take it a little bit easier, be a little bit more casual about it?
I think it should be more casual, because this is still all what we're still doing is making something we like. You could consider it art. Like, these cases is not a thing that you're making millions of, and they all have to be exactly the same. No, you're making 100, you're making 200. These are unique things. So why would you go so deep in being like, oh, look, we made this thing in exactly this color? Because it kind of takes away from the natural thing that it is.
I mean, yeah. You're right, because if and I'm sure the IP, who's the artisan maker in chat, would agree. There's going to be different. If someone does a batch of say 10 artisans, there's going to be the handmade. There's going to be a difference between all 10. They're all going to be slightly different. I have two fugus of the same colorway, and they're slightly different. They're very different. In fact, I've got a few examples of the same colorway of different artisans, and they're slightly different. And I think you're right, Salvun, to an extent. This is a hobby based around what is effectively a work of art on your desk, and unless you start to go things like e-colors and things where it's a repeatable process, anodizing isn't an exact science. And I know as well as you do, you can put 3 different parts in the same anodization bath, and depending on the size of the part and how long you leave it in there, they can all come out slightly different shades.
Yeah, and it's like every factor changes your color, and I'm pretty sure that GMK will also tell you, like, look, we will do it this RAL color, but there will be a deviation. It's just, color is hard. And the moment you're going to put like a thing on it, like, this is what we need to hit, you're going to put on pressure on people. You're going to put pressure on group eyes, on the art that we're kind of doing here. You're going to mess with things that maybe we shouldn't be messing with.
Yeah, I'm glad you're actually bringing this up, because I'm trying to stay neutral on this, but I fully agree with you. I don't really care about colors at all, though, so I'm kind of the wrong person to be arguing either side, but I fully agree. To me, I want this to be like a fun, casual hobby, and I feel like when you start dissecting everything to that level, you start scrutinizing and putting everything under a microscope and trying to get everything as perfect as it possibly can be, you start to lose out on a little bit of the fun of the community, at least for me. But obviously some people are into that, and Existentially Yours brings up an interesting point as well. He says, it's the intersection of art and engineering, and for some people it skews one way when it should be a balance.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? And I think it comes back down to this question that we had right at the very top of this. Should we use renders as a guide, or should they be 100% accurate? And I think that pretty much everyone's agreeing here that we should take them as a guide. It should be close to the render, but we shouldn't be reaching for the unattainable.
Even on keycap sets, Chulates, I don't think you should go that extreme. My personal opinion, because again, you can bend this to your will too. You can say, hey, look, I did this color science thing, and look how good it matches. But like, where's the line? How did you bend this to your will? Maybe you took the keycap and then you put a RAL color from a different book that matched it better than the original book you used. You know, it's like,
sure, yeah.
Is this really a thing that we need to get into? Can't we just make cool stuff and appreciate that?
Yeah, and Iwade brings up kind of an almost a counterpoint here. He says it's not just a fun, casual hobby. When people like Dixie, this is their life, their career, and that's the other aspect of it as well. We're kind of taking the approach from a consumer point of view.
But I'm taking this from a manufacturing point of view, and from
I was to say this is your life.
I was about to say for you, this
is your life now.
This is okay, stupid thing, but this puts food on the table now for me and my family, and that kind of pressure of it needs to match this exactly, I don't think I'd accept. If anyone comes up to me and is like, hey, I want a keyboard case, and here's a RAL color, and if you put it next to it, it needs to be exact match, I will say flat out, no, I'm not going to run your case.
So when we talk about Lodestone, do I have to send you my Datsun so you can color match that? Is that how this is going to work?
The entire Datsun, yeah.
Yeah, you have to ship that right over.
Just ship you the car. Do you know what? I might just drive over and see, because that's something we've been planning for a while. So I might just.
It's gonna, you guys, like everybody who makes these stuff, like everybody who buys it, right? There's so many people who are enjoying this and who are buying this, but if you look in between the lines, there's always that group of people that's putting pressure on the people that are making it. The same thing with what happened with the novel keys, with that injection molded case. How much hate that they got because it sold out so fast. How much hate Keycult gets because they sell out so fast. That puts a ton of mental pressure on vendors and the people who are making it. And something like this is just another, like, let's push this down a little bit. Let's stress you out just that little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a wider topic that we're merging into, but there is a lot of pressure for vendors, designers, manufacturers to be able to do things at certain scales or quantities now. I know quite recently so I launched the Intercheck for the JO1 Rev 1 a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to see how the Intercheck went to determine how many units I want to run, but all the 90% of the feedback that I got on the forum was make sure there's enough so that I can get one. It's like, well, how do you do that? How on earth do I take on that responsibility to make sure that everyone who wants one can get one, when there is a limit to what a person can do in terms of quality control, manufacturing capability, turnaround times, and all of that? It's kind of like, where do you draw the line between allowing the pressure to make you make a decision that's not attainable and not, as you said right at the top, Salvun, make a promise that you can't keep?
It's I get sometimes people that come in and are like, hey, you need to do this RAL color, and I tell them, like, look, this is not how it works. You can give me a guide color, and that's the range we'll try and work around, right? And then I'll get the response sometimes, yeah, but China was like, we'll do the RAL color. And I guess China will say yes to anything. That's true. But if you call around here in Europe or even in the States, and you go to any analyzing shop and you tell them, can you do RAL colors? They'll say, well, we can do shades, but we won't accept like that it needs to be that exact RAL color. Not a single analyzer will ever do that. And the one that say they do, they're not real analyzers.
Yeah, and I do think this really does tie back into the managing expectations, and Morven brings up a point here. He says, the idea that Salvun's credibility could be shattered in a Reddit thread because of a slight color deviation is madness. And I totally agree. But at the same point, here's the follow-up from Jonah here. If a render is a representation of what I'm getting and it isn't representing what it is, then it kind of shouldn't be there. Or is it going to be changed or better represent what is available? Otherwise, how do I know what I'm getting?
Well, you do get the sample cap still, don't we? From like GMK, you do. Still,
we still get samples.
Yeah, you still make a sample. Okay, I'll put it differently. Like, if you know the board is run by Salvun or by somebody else, you know what the capabilities are. They've already made boards 9 out of 10, so you can go look at back and like, hey, how did his blue look like? Or does he have a color sample up? If you buy a set from Zamuman, you know it's probably going to be pretty good compared to the renders. Because you know the makers put the time in getting the samples from GMK, talking to GMK, and then adjusting their renders to match what they have.
Yeah. And Enigma's kind of rounding it out here, saying, I personally think the responsibility still lies with the designer. And I kind of agree with that as well. I mean, at the end of the day, if the designer is putting out the exact, let's say a GMK set, for example, the exact GMK colorway that they were trying for, that they had envisioned, that they want, how are you supposed to argue that, really?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And I don't think there's a right answer to this. I think people are going to have different views on it, and that's fine. That's absolutely right. I think that the more the community realizes that the perfection shown in renders is unattainable, and that we need to have a realistic output view of what is achievable. They should be close, but they're never going to be perfect, and they're going to be different depending on who you are and where you're viewing them as well. The renders I view on my screens here are going to be different to the renders that Brian views on his screens or Salvun views on his screens, because we've got different setups and different lighting and different monitors. So we have to realize that there is going to be a slight difference even in just the digital capability of what we're looking at before we start to talk about the actual physical product as well.
Yeah. Completely agree.
There should be still QC, and the customer should feel free to give feedback and voice the QC problems.
Oh, of course.
100% agree. And I'm not saying here that, like, if you ask blue and you get green, that you shouldn't complain. At that point, you complain. That's not what I'm trying to say here. It's just like, it's that thing that Dixie put out is like putting it down to like the 1 or even 0.5% of color mismatch. I think that's too far. It's like, you got to make it the best you can, and that's what defines a good maker, a good keycap set designer, a good artisan maker, is like, how close can he get it, and does he do it repeatedly? But then like pushing that under 0.5%, and that's going to affect other people, and then it's going to make them stress out more. I don't think that's right, because there's so many people in here that don't know about manufacturing or what the real life limitations are, and they're going to see this and they're going to be like, oh, well, if he can do it, then you should too.
Yeah,
I agree. And Julian comes out with a really good analog here. He said how many things that are being advertised actually look like what you're getting. For example, if you look at a McDonald's advert, the burger that you see on the advert is not the burger you unwrap when you get it in
your hand.
I
was just thinking that.
You know.
Yeah, but
then we get
into like a whole other can of worms of like a McDonald's cheeseburger is only like $1, whereas a keyboard can be like $600, and it's like, should we compare them? You could be, yeah, or maybe not. Who knows?
That's why I said it's an analog. It's not necessarily a good comparison.
It's certainly something to think about, though, because you're right. It's not just. I mean, it's not just in food either. Like a lot of things aren't exactly as you're expecting in life, right? Like not everything goes exactly 100% as you're expecting every aspect of your life. That's just not how it works.
But isn't that little bit a part of the fun of it?
Yeah, the unpredictability is part of it.
Same thing with the cipher. Like the cipher was supposed to be a more navy blue, and it became a way darker blue. But I kind of really like it. Like I got it, and it was a lot dark, and it's like, wait, this is actually kind of cool. Does that? It's not completely off, but it's also not exactly what was shown in the renders.
Yeah.
Sometimes the little subtleties.
A little bit of fun, a little bit of surprise. Sometimes a little bit.
And knowing that yours is slightly different to everyone else's, and you know, that's kind of nice as well. You know, no two things are the same.
And they shouldn't be, because you're paying a lot of money for it. Like, what would the fun be if everything was exactly the same?
Well, we'd just be Corsair then, or Razer, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Why not buy the Corsair keyboard at this point?
Hey.
Yeah,
it's always an option, and a valid one too.
Yes, certainly, depending on who you are, for sure. Orange Josh says, I think people complain in part because of how expensive key sets are. The more expensive a product, the greater expectation. Cost a factor, I imagine. Yeah, okay. And that's...
Hot take on that.
Let's hear it.
If you don't like it, sell it.
Yeah, or don't buy it in the first place, right?
I mean, there is so many people in here. If you have a set that you purchased and then you regret it and you don't like it, 110% that you can sell it and get all your money back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the counter argument to that is like, well, I'm still putting my money in here first. However, I would also like to point out that the fact that you can afford these products to begin with means that you're probably in a pretty good place in life, at least financially, enough so. If you're buying, $100, $200 GMK sets and several $100 keyboards and et cetera, et cetera. But again, this is one of those things where there's definitely multiple sides to it, and that's what we're trying to kind of bring up here and kind of get people's thoughts going here. We're not trying to take sides, of course, just trying to get some points out there.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day on this, my view is that, you're never going to hit perfection. Perfection is unattainable in all things. Trying to make a board to match a render is not the right way of doing it. Renders are a guide for me, and that's how I try to use them. But at the end of the day, everyone pays their money. They take their choice when they join these group buys. You should be aware of these risks, and that's what we're trying to do. Just to highlight to you guys how difficult this is, and that's why Salvun's been so kind as to jump onto the chat with us to explain from a manufacturing point of view how difficult it is. We're not saying don't buy into things because you're not sure how it's going to go, but just be aware that things might not be 100% accurate to a virtual render that you've seen. There is a very big difference between the virtual creation of digital media to the actual manufacturing of a physical product.
That's why it's so important that you jump on things with people that have experience. Like, there's so many new group buys coming up from people that have never made anything ever. It's their first run. Keep in mind that those will probably deviate more than people that have already run multiple boards, multiple key sets, multiple arts. They have more experience in what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point too, which is, I think, why we're starting to see so many people such as yourselves start to get so much more established within the community and get this level of following, which I think is fantastic.
Absolutely.
There's Chuletas donates 100 bits and says, best episodes so far with these random guests and your reactions to chat. Much love, guys. Shout out to Lang and Salvun. Yes, thank you so much for the bits. And yes, of course, shout out to Lang and Salvun.
Yeah, this is something we wanted to do. We wanted to get back to more engaging with you guys. The previous versions of the show, we just talked about news. All we were doing was ignoring chat for 90 minutes while we talked about latest intro checks and group buys. This is much more the kind of content we want to produce, engaging with you guys, talking with you guys, giving our own views, playing devil's advocate with the kind of thoughts and picking up different sides of the argument just because we can. And having guests like the wonderful Salvun and Langelandia. Thank you very much for joining us today, Salvun. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you have any closing thoughts, any closing hot takes before you head out?
Be mindful for the people who spend the time on making it, or like even from renders to the post to the machining to the selling. Like, be mindful, be respectful for everybody who puts the time in for you to get that key set or board or whatever it is on your desk.
Yeah, it turns out there are real
Wise
people
words
behind the vendors and the manufacturers of our community, and they are often trying their hardest as well. So let's not add tons of stress to them, especially if there's no reason to.
Yeah, thank you, Salvun, very much for joining us. We really appreciate it, guys in chat. Hearts in chat for Salvun. Thank him as well for us for joining us. It's been great having you on, dude.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna bounce out. See you guys later.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon, Salvun. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Fantastic human being Salvun is, of course, but we already knew that. And speaking of fantastic human beings, why don't we talk about our sponsors for a moment, and then we'll roll into our Q&A. It sounds like a pretty good time to kind of round this out. We're going over a little over time than we wanted to, but hey, that's kind of the Top Clack way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got questions for us, guys, just tag us in chat now with @TopClack and ask your question. We're going to run through our sponsors for a couple of minutes, and when we come back, hopefully you guys will have posted a few questions in chat for us to answer in our sweet and subtle voices.
Yes, absolutely. Let me get this
Okay.
screen flip over here. Starting us off today, we have the wonderful one and only Novel Keys. They've been there from the start for us, and they are just fantastic people, of course. Shout outs to Mike and crew over there. They got a few things going on for you, of course, as usual. GMK Mecha 01 is going to be one of your GMK sets from Novel Keys this month. So if you're a fan of that kind of a mecha, you know, it's almost Evangelion kind of aesthetic, that could be something totally for you. And of course, there is a matching desk mat. That desk mat's actually pretty sick. I like that a lot. And of course, GMK Hammerhead still around too. So if you're a fan of that, the light kit is still available, which is my personal favorite. And I know a lot of people have been pretty hyped for the Silk series and Dry series of Novel Keys switches coming out. And they have been selling quite well, so much so that not all of them are in stock. I know he bought quite a few, but they're still starting to sell out. But if you wanted to pick up a few, there's still a couple in stock. So if you want the Silk Reds, they are still available, as well as, I believe, the Dry Yellows, or at least before the stream that was the case. So if you want to try either of those are still available, and hopefully there's going to be a restock coming in soon, I do believe is actually happening. So those will be back hopefully in the very near future, and you can pick some of those up as well, because these are the pre-lubed JWK manufactured switches that Mike has been working quite well on lately, and trying to kind of, you know, fine-tune everything. And it's a fully lubed switch from the factory, which is not necessarily the first of its kind, but I will say it's probably by far the most successful of its kind. So if you're not a fan of lubing, but you want to try out some sweet lube switches for only 55 cents a switch, then this could be definitely for you. If you're not a fan of those, there's definitely lots of other switches in stock to choose from, as well as you know, other key sets and desk mats and a variety of other things, springs, and hopefully we get some plushies back soon, because man, we need some more Gator Rons and olives in stock. Regardless, if you're buying something in stock, make sure you use the promo code CLACK, that's one word. That'll get you 5% off your entire order.
Absolutely. Moving over to our second sponsor of the day, it is Kono.store. The wonderful people over at Kono, they have a few things going on right now. GMK Ishtar and GMK Deku are both in group buy right now, so you can pick those up and join the group buy if you want to do so. Both feature big base kits. Ishtar's got multiple different kits, some additional alphas, and all sorts of other things as well. So definitely feel free to check those out if you're interested. There's also lots of pre-orders on existing key sets as well. So key sets that are running group buy historically, you can join hundreds, well not hundreds, but dozens of those on the site. EPBT Ivory, SA2600, loads of different GMK sets. If you've missed out on those, you can definitely pre-order a set now as well. EPBT Ivory is one that I've picked up quite recently in pre-order myself because I missed the group buy, so don't forget you can still do that as well. And if you're looking for a keyboard, perhaps the Hex Gears Gemini X1 and Venture keyboards might be up your street. These are really, really nice, low-profile, wireless mechanical keyboards that could be a great introduction to people who, you know, getting into the community, getting into the hobby. Could be a great starter board for people. Lots of opportunities in there. You know, really good bits of kit at a really great price as well.
Yep, absolutely. Moving right along, we have KBDfans, who has a few new things going on. If you check out the group buy sections now, you can check out GMK Evil Dolch. They are the proxy over here for this, as well as a couple other things that I noticed, interestingly enough, before the stream. The KBD 6.7 Mark II, as well as the KBD 8X Mark II, are not in stock. However, they are open for pre-order right now. So if you're looking for one of these, then now is probably your chance to get on that pre-order list, because I know a lot of people have been waiting for that, as well as the 8X. So that is definitely something to consider. But this is basically a one-stop shop for all sorts of things. So if you've never been to KBDfans, they have pretty much anything you can think of: switches, stabilizers, PCBs, cases, a lot of good budget and entry-level stuff in particular. So if you're coming into the hobby and you don't have a ton of money to spare, KBDfans is a great place to start, because you can probably pick up a pretty decent kit at whatever kind of price range and layout that you're after. And they have lots of other funny artisans and fun stuff there as well too. So make sure to check that out, especially if you're newer to the hobby.
Yeah, and finally, just jumping over to Mekanisk. So this is Leandron's store, the creator of the Fiel and all those other boards, the Clipper and everything else. So in stock right now, he's got the W60D PCBs, as well as the new Duroc Ultramarine stabilizers as well, in that wonderful colorway that he's offering. And as well as that, there's also E Ultra Hot coming soon. This is a new E color, so electrophoresis coating that Mekanisk has developed, and it's looking kind of stunning. What do you think of that, Brian? Is that something that's...
I'm not usually a fan of red boards, I gotta be honest, but this one's pretty nice. I like the idea of the red e-coating. I haven't really seen too much e-coating red
Yeah,
yet.
it's like a hot pink, reddish hot
Neon,
pink. It's
he
a really
says.
interesting color.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that looks in real life because again, I think he's got physical samples and physical boards, but I definitely want to see see it IRL. But yeah, really, really interesting to see that, and good on Leandrin for coming up with something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. Although I still got to be honest, the ultramarine, man. Ultramarine is just so in the round 1 space gray. I mean, those colors are just so iconic for Mekanisk, and it's kind of hard to not want to go with those. All right, let's go ahead and check in on some of these questions from chat. Of course, guys, you keep questions coming. Make sure to use the @TopClack tag, and we can see those a lot easier.
Big shout out to PMS and Chicken as well for the 28 months of subscriptions. 28 months, wow! Thank you very much for that.
That's a while.
That's really, really appreciated. Thank you, dude.
That's more than 3 Top Clack children. So thank you so much for that.
Three Top Clack babies, 4th on the way.
Oh man, Teal Technic said this is very informative and very interesting. Thank you. Then donates 300 bits. So thank you so much for that. Greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Melodit asking, how do you feel about the potential for embossed keyboards, a la the Auru TKL?
The Auru is kind of interesting. Yeah, it's a pretty unique look. I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest. Have you seen this, Brian? Hold on, let me get a link for you. I'm not sure if you've seen this.
I feel like I did see it, but I didn't actually go through the thread.
Yeah, link in chat. I think it's kind of interesting. It's certainly a unique look, and I think there's a lot of different things you could do with it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I do think it fits the theme of the Auru pretty well. The whole Illuminati kind of thing and having the hieroglyphics on there, I kind of like that. And yeah, it kind of works for me. You know, the all-seeing eye and everything else, the pyramids and that kind of thing. I do kind of like it, and I think it works really, really well. I'm not sure how I feel about it as something I'd want on every board. Yeah, it's an interesting take.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's something I'd want on every board, but as something like unique like this, I think it's totally fantastic. I mean, it's one of those boards like you kind of just get one of and just like have that in your collection to kind of like show off. It's like a showpiece as well, you know. It's one of those boards that you kind of show people to like impress them versus just, you know, one that sits on your desk, I feel like. So I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I've always liked that kind of stuff, and I've always liked boards that are just different than all the other boards, and I feel like this kind of accomplishes that in that sense, at least.
Yeah, I think I think do you know what? It's one board that I might try and pick up just to see how it looks and feels in real life and see how it comes out. I'm definitely kind of interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Chuletas is asking, would love you guys to have Mike from Novel Keys on the stream. One man I've never heard or seen. Oh, okay, well, some Top Clack lore for you. He's actually been on the show at least 3 or 4 times in the past. However, it has been a while. It has been a while. I'm sure he'd agree to come back on again. He's always super nice and genuine. And he's always agreed every time I've asked him to come on the show so far. So hopefully, he's obviously a lot busier these days.
He was on Mechs on Deck a little while ago, I think, as well. Not too long ago. I think he was definitely on there maybe a couple of months ago, something like that. But he's genuinely one of the nicest guys in keyboards, is Mike. He is very thoughtful, very considerate. And he's just genuinely a nice person.
I will ping him right after the show and ask him if he'd be willing to come on for an episode in the next coming weeks, and then
awesome.
Then you guys will know. I think that'll be quite well. We'll structure some topics around him too, which is kind of something I'm going to be trying to do going forward with some of the guests. I already have a couple in the works that I think are going to be fantastic. Hopefully, if we get it all coordinated right, next week's episode is going to be a really good one, at least in my eyes. So definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, having Mike on again, you know, it's always a pleasure. We love Mike, so I think that'll go pretty well. We always have a good time together. All right, Liquid Sky Designs saying 100% understand that renders don't translate to made products. But what about some of the recent GMK errors? Do you think we'll see momentum towards other cap manufacturers? Yeah, so it's no surprise, right? GMK has been having errors. You could say that colors could be part of that. I would also say that obviously things like the bent space bars for 9009 and some other sets maybe kind of an issue, and some of the other keycap orientation on some sets has been a little off. I will admit, but you know, it's hard to say, right? Because GMK has never produced keycaps for our community at this rate, and you know, to be doing it during times of COVID-19. I question, you know, whether they should be maybe taking on as many orders as they are, and maybe they are having, you know, a reduction in staff right now because of the pandemic or other factors that are going into that. I think that it's hard to say, but I would like maybe some answers at the very least, just to kind of see like what's been going on, if there are reasons for why like things have been going on, and like maybe what they plan to do moving forward. Again, I did an interview with Andy of GMK on the YouTube channel Behind the Keyboard a while back, and well, I guess it was only a couple months back, but that was a really good interview, and it was very informative, and I learned a lot talking to him there. So I think if you're interested in a lot of the GMK stuff that's going on right now, you should definitely check that out. It's not 100% up to date because some of the more recent errors. But as for your second part of your question, what are we going to see momentum towards other cat manufacturers? Yeah, probably. I mean, we already see a fair amount of cat sets come out. Infinity's starting to gain a little bit of ground. We've been seeing Enjoy PBT lately as well. I definitely think that GMK is not the end-all be-all for keycat manufacturing.
Yeah, and we've seen this before. We've seen it, if you go back to like 2016, 2017, nearly every group buy was SA. It was Signature Plastics SA. And that's kind of fallen by the wayside because the lead times got too long and things like that. Now it's GMK that's at the top of the pile, and GMK are having issues. You know, lead times are increasing. They've got, you know, some issues with keycap sets. I think we probably need to have a chat at some point on the show about the GMK errors and what that means for the community. It is on our topics list. We talked about it before the show. It was one we considered talking about today, and we chose to wait for a little bit because there's something we're waiting for on that. But yeah, it's definitely something that we need to talk about. And I think as the community grows, there'll be more opportunity for the keycap manufacturers to join as well. We've seen a lot of improvements from JTK in the past couple of years. Infinikey is on the rise, Cat's on the rise, and Cam as well. You know, there's the Upas has got a new set coming out soon, which uses a new PBT manufacturer. There is lots and lots of opportunity out there. ePBT are now doing double shot keycaps as well. If they improve, that's another challenger to the GMK throne, if you want to view it that way. So I think there's lots of options coming, and I don't think the competition is a bad
gaining
thing.
a lot of traction as well.
Yeah,
definitely. I don't think anyone should feel that GMK is the end all be all. Just because it's arguably the most popular in our community doesn't mean it's the only option, of course. And I think it's okay that if they need to maybe scale down some of their orders, that maybe we could explore other manufacturers as well. Stash builds boards, subs at tier 1 for 8 months. Thank you so much, man. He says, hello,
thanks,
boys.
Stash.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you around.
Stash is a good boy. He's a
great guy. Check out his stream if anyone's interested in some fun build streams. He definitely has a really good time doing them. 21 Solo is asking definitely the hardest hitting question we've had in a while. Burgers for life or pizza for life?
Pizza. You can do more with. Oh, you can do a lot with a pizza.
They're both pretty blank canvases.
You could put burgers on a pizza, man. You could do that.
I mean, it's probably easier to have a burger-themed pizza than it is to have a pizza-themed burger, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, so if you go with pizza, you can get the best of both worlds, I guess, while still having some really good pizza at the time. So I think I would go for pizza.
I gotta agree.
I pizza right now.
Oh, this is so tough, man. I eat a fair amount of burgers. I eat a fair amount of pizza. All right, I'm an overweight American male. I've consumed my share of both. So
this reminds me of this literally this week last year in Seattle, and 159 from Project Keyboard turned up to our house a little bit late, and we'd already ordered a takeaway, and we'd had like, I don't know, 4 pizzas between the 8 or 9.
Pretty large, four pretty large pizzas.
And, and 159 came in, and he's an average sized guy. He's not a big guy. He's not like Brian. You know, he's not a big guy. But the amount of pizza that guy can eat, oh my word! I was impressed.
He just walked in and casually started eating pizza for like 3 hours straight. He was just like eating pizza. I'm like, how are you doing this?
It was
He's like, I don't know,
impressive,
man.
man.
I'm just
That was
hungry.
impressive.
that was my first time meeting 159 in person, and it couldn't have been a better impression. It was absolutely perfection. I think I gotta go with pizza though. I think pizza is just a little bit more versatile.
It is.
And
It is. Yeah.
and varied. I gotta go with the pizza. But man, I do love a good burger. You remember the burgers we had after the meetup last year in Seattle?
Oh man, yes, yeah. Those burgers were so good.
That was a great burger joint.
That was probably a top 10 burger for me, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for me too, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving away from those that crazy hard question, I want to bringing us back to reality here with some of the easy stuff. Wink, wink. Do you think with the massive number of keyset and keyboard group buys running in the past year or so, we are starting to see an oversaturation of the market for those who have been in it for a bit, where something has to do something to really to really different to excite them? I had trouble reading that sentence. So for the people that have been around in the community for a while, is it maybe a little boring because we've just seen all these things get rehashed and we've just we're just seeing colorways? And I to be honest with you, yes. I mean, I've been in the community since 2014, and I've seen a lot of keyboards and a lot of keyset group buys so far, and I don't really care about a lot of them these days, which is another reason why I think Jay and I have kind of moved away from that very heavy news-centered format that we were doing, that we honestly weren't enjoying, and we've moved over to this new format, which we are enjoying. And a lot of that just has to do with a lot of the boards just aren't that different. Let's be honest, guys. A lot of them do actually do amazing things and new things and inventive things, and that's great, and we definitely want to support that. But at the end of the day, a lot of them are fairly similar. I mean, it's just going to come down to which layout you want. What color do you want? What plate material do you want? Which is, a lot of which we can answer questions about all day long. But at the end of the day, I don't know what your preference is. I don't know what you're gonna like until you use it, right? I can talk at you for as long as you guys want, but until you use configuration X or keyboard Y or this key set or that key set, you're not gonna know what you like.
Yeah, I think the flip side to this question is that for the people who are the 1% of the community, the people that have been here for years, for best part of a decade, that have tried all of the boards and things like that, things might feel a little bit stale, and they're waiting for the next new thing to come along. But you've got to remember that the vast majority of the community is now made up of people who are newer to the community. They've joined within the past 2 years, 12 months, 6 months, month even, and all these new group buys are running, and that's catering to them because it might be giving you something you already have, or have tried or don't want, but it's giving someone who's new to the hobby an opportunity to get something that they would like to learn about those experiences and try those things. So I think the longer you've been in the hobby, the harder it does to. The harder it gets to try and find an interest check that suits you. But the good news is there's more and more interest checks every day. So there's always going to be something that comes along that piques your interest or tickles your fancy.
Yeah, it's almost guaranteed, right? You wait a few days and something's going to pop up, just because dozens and dozens of things pop up every single week. Whether it's
and Rust kind of leads onto this as well, because his question, which is next in the line, he says, have you guys seen the Geist machine? And yes, I have. It's a very unique take on keyboards. I kind of love it and hate it all at the same time, but I absolutely want one. I don't know how I feel about the board. It's just very, very different and very unique, but I would absolutely love to own one just to try it out. So yes, I like it.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it's so out there that it's hard for me not to like it and want to try it, just because of how out there it is. It's not just another clone of this TKL, or it's not just another top mount 60%. I mean, those are great keyboards and great experiences as well in their own right, sure. But after so many years of using them and seeing them and not getting quite as much variance until more recently, it just got a little stale. I gotta be honest, but stuff like this is just fun. To me, this hobby is more about fun now. I don't want it to be I don't want it to necessarily be my job. I don't want it to spend all day looking at keyboard stuff and having to learn this and that, and if I don't know this, then I'm not smart enough, or I'm not keeping up enough, or blah blah blah, and whatever people want to say. And it's just man, I just want this hobby to be fun again for me. And for the first time in a year or two, it's starting to become fun again, and I really look forward to the hobby again, and I look forward to doing Top Clack more. And like that's a state I want to stay in. And you know, part of that is just my opinions. And my opinion is, you know, boards like this, even though a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, that's dumb, that's not a good keyboard, you know, it's not going to be as good as something like a Keycolt or, you know, a TGR or whatever. And sure, maybe that's true, but like, does it need to be? Maybe it can be something entirely different. Maybe it can be something entirely new. Maybe it can be its own thing, and that's totally fine, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Boy314 comes up with a question. He says, how important is an ultrasonic cleaner for Alps? Would you use it for all non-new old stock Alps? Yes, any Alps that I'm taking off of a board that's being used in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to want to clean. Alps are notoriously susceptible to changes in feel based on the amount of dirt that they collect. They're notorious for collecting dirt, so I would absolutely use an ultrasonic cleaner for any Alp switch. I'd probably even put new old stock Alps in there as well, because you've no idea how they've been stored. They could have been in a bag, they could have been in a box, they could have just been on a shelf. So I would probably put them through anyway, just to make sure I was comfortable with. And then I personally prefer to use a dry lube on them as well.
Yeah. I feel like if you're getting pretty invested in this community and you're buying a lot of vintage stuff, whether they be switches or keycaps, or maybe you just want to keep your current stuff clean, I think it's totally worth investing in an ultrasonic cleaner. You can get them as cheap as like, you know, $30 to $50 for you know, a fairly entry level one that'll generally get you by, and that's really not too terrible of an investment if you really think about how much you're spending on all the other stuff. It's kind of just a drop in the bucket at that point. So I mean, I have a pretty cheap one. It works for what I need it for. I don't use it every single day, but you know, every few weeks I'll run a set through there. Or, you know, if I pick up, you know, a vintage something or other, I'll run it through there. You know, it works for other things as well. I've cleaned non-keyboard stuff in there too. Like, it's just, you know, it's a fairly, you know, unintrusive product, and you know, it has a lot of uses. So I appreciate that. Yeah,
they're worthwhile having. I vastly agree on that. Yeah.
Yes. Chuletas is saying also, what? Oh no, I'm sorry. He says something first. He says, thanks guys, that's awesome. I think he's referring to the mic interview. And now he says, also, what boards are you guys rocking right now? Pull them up. We can definitely do that. Well, I can do that. I don't know what you're going to do.
I'm going to pull up a board that I'm not using but is on my desk. Contractually, I can't show something that's on this board here. So
that's right. Yes.
Yes, I can't
that
show.
Makes sense.
But I will show you what I have been using. So up until today, I've been using my JO1 Rev1 prototype with GMK Honeywell. This is the latest round of Honeywell, the Death Authority edition. Not the latest round of Honeywell, the second round of Honeywell, the Death Authority key set of the year edition. And I've been really enjoying using the board.
Fantastic. I have what I actually built on my most recent build stream, which is an Iron 165 Plum Edition, and I have a GMK 9009 Round 3 on here. I absolutely love it. This board has been freaking amazing. Definitely one of the best boards I've used in the community, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. All right. Liquid Sky Design says, thanks for the thoughtful response. The GMK errors seem more frequent, significant, and varied, which is concerning. Their lack of comms make it seem even worse. I'm really hoping we get some other manufacturers get opportunities to show what they are capable of. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, competition among vendors generally benefits consumers more than anyone else, right? You're gonna get you're gonna get better pricing, you're gonna get, you know, quicker lead times, you're gonna get better community or customer service, etc., etc. That's kind of just the way things go, and I feel like, you know, we might be in that kind of stage right now where GMK might still be everyone's favorite. It might kind of still be like up there in the pinnacle of quality, all things considered. But there's certainly room for other people, and we've seen people like JWK and Enjoy PBT now has the ABS line, like Jay mentioned earlier. You know, we see other double shot ABS manufacturers out there, but they're still not really putting out the same level of quality that GMK is putting out right now, even. Which kind of tells you a lot. I mean, GMK makes these errors, but we're still running tons of GMK sets anyways because nobody wants to use anything else, because GMK is still, even with the errors, a better option than some others to a lot of people. So I don't know. That's a hard question to say, but I think it would be nice if we saw some more competition for GMK, because I think everyone kind of wins at that point.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice. Okay. Next is, I think it's Niv 180. So I really enjoyed the news doc, but I'm glad that you guys are going in a new direction that you guys both enjoy. Thank you, man. Yeah, doing these shows has been a breath of fresh air, and I genuinely didn't realize how upset I was getting about doing the news every week, and this feels much more natural.
I hate to make it sound like mean or bad or anything, but like there were times before episodes where Jay and I were just like, ugh, we gotta talk about this topic today, we gotta talk about that topic, and like let's round up all these key set interest checks. And it's just like, I know a lot of people want to see that, but I mean, even right now, there are other people doing that now. Now that we're not doing it, there are other people doing that. I saw Mech Merlin doing it the other day. I saw Max F doing it the other day. Man of Interest still does, his version of it as well. And it's like, there are other outlets to go if you just want, like, a news dump and, like, some opinions on it. And while that's cool and all, and I think that's something that, we did and, might have been all right, but, we've kind of moved on from that. And it's hard to keep up with all the news in the community these days, considering how spread out a lot of it is and just how much of it is there. It's almost like a full-time job trying to keep up with all these interest checks and group buys and, like, what's going on with each one and, like, the designer's thoughts on this and that. It was cool earlier because we could do it easily. But because it turned into something like, all right, now I have to spend all this time going through all this. I just didn't enjoy doing it, and I feel like it got to a point where you guys probably weren't enjoying the content nearly as much because we weren't as happy with it, whether we said anything about it or not. But now we're kind of changing that, and the last couple episodes are a good indication of kind of the way we feel. And now you're kind of getting what we want to do. You're getting more of the real us, and it's still a little sloppy and messy right now because we're not really finished setting everything up, of course. But you're getting us in a way more raw format of what we actually want. And at the end of the day, if we're a lot happier, hopefully that translates to the content more. And we know that there are going to be people that don't want to watch us anymore because of this. And that's fine. I've already had a few people message me being like, when are you going to go back to the normal Top Clack? And I'm like, okay, well, Top Clack is changing. Let's just start with that right now. Like, we're going to be we want to take a little more of a casual podcast approach and, kind of dig deeper instead of just being like, here's this interest checking group buy in this product. Maybe let's talk about why this and that. Yeah. Get a little bit more philosophical on it and, chat with some other people about it. And there's a lot more to dig into in this community than just like how good a keyboard is or what color a key set is or like if we like this color or there's so much more. And like to dive into the people in the community, I feel like is going to be kind of something we're going to be going more towards moving forward in the future as well. Like
absolutely.
Just getting those connections, man. And trying to stay wholesome too. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues, like a lot of you guys know, and it's something I've been working on and getting better. But it's hard right now for a lot of people in the world. I hate to get all depressy about it, but suicide rates, unemployment rates, all skyrocketing right now. Depression, anxiety is like commonplace for so many people in the world right now, and I feel like it shouldn't necessarily have to be that way. And I feel like if we can maybe start from within a community like the keyboard community and kind of work our way out and maybe change people's outlooks to something a little bit more positive, a little bit more friendly, a little bit more helpful and supportive to others in the community as a whole and in the world as a whole, I think it's just going to be a better place for everyone. And we got to start somewhere, right?
I agree. I've had some difficult conversations this past week where people have expected us to go back to the old format or not quite demanded it, but it's felt like it's been edging towards that kind of view where they felt that we were required to do it. It's just been difficult because we don't have to put out any content that we don't want to do. And whilst we really, really appreciate all of you guys that are watching this new version of Top Clack, if this isn't the content you want, then you don't have to watch us. So we are genuinely really, really happy that you guys are staying watching us and keep watching us, even though the show has gone through so many changes recently.
Yeah, and I know some people have left, and that's totally fine. We respect that. Obviously, if you don't want to watch us, don't watch us. That's pretty simple. But you see a lot of new faces around here too, and we definitely appreciate that. A lot of usernames around the chat today, for instance, I've never even seen before. So definitely appreciate that. It's always good to see new people in here, and we try to grow and foster a helpful and wholesome community that can kind of expand outwards, hopefully. And if you want to be a part of that, freaking awesome. Come right on in. Check out the links below the stream and join our Discord and stuff. Come hang out with us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Moving right along here.
Next
question. I got to the point in chat where you said you couldn't show off your board, and I was like, oh yeah. And now everyone's like, leaks.
I can't.
Fun stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah. Soon enough, probably. Soon enough.
Soon, yeah, very soon. Yeah.
Iwade is asking, generally, Top Clack is generally... Oh, wait, I don't think he's...
Generally, it is considered best to get permission to do an R2 of a key set from the original designer. However, with some older sets, the original runners are no longer in the hobby, and contacting them is difficult, if not impossible. Do you think making a best effort to contact them is good enough? I think this is a contentious one. I think if you look at things like Muted, a lot of people would like a second round of Muted, but Jay-Chan either says no or doesn't reply to people that ask him. I know I've asked him, I know dozens of other people have asked him as well, and either you don't get a response or you get a response saying no. But then we've had some other sets that have not been quite Muted, but have been quite similar. Modern Dutch Light is kind of in that same vein. It's a very different set, and of course it runs on its own merit, but it is kind of in that same vein. So it's a difficult one to answer, because then you've got other kind of keycap sets that don't have owners, like Honeywell and White on Black and Black on White, which anyone can run because they're kind of community owned sets, I guess, in a way. They're kind of colorways that no one really has ownership of. But when it's a specific colorway, say it was one of Zamberman's sets and Zamberman had dropped out of the hobby, and I pray he never does, because he's a great boon to the hobby, but say he drops out of the hobby and someone wanted to rerun Serica, what would be the right way of doing that? And I honestly don't know a good answer. I don't think there is a good answer. How do you feel about it, Brian?
I totally agree with you. I mean, it's a pretty touchy subject, right? Because I mean, if someone leaves the community, for example, like you mentioned, if like Zombumon left the community, for example, and someone wanted to rerun Serica, like what's the ethical thing to do there? Do you just let the colorway leave with them? Because I think that's probably the answer, even though people probably don't want to hear it. But that's a touchy subject, I feel like, and probably a topic for another time, even, because you could probably unpack quite a bit from that topic, honestly.
Yeah, perhaps it's one we should add to our news doc and maybe get some designers' views on it at some point. Maybe we could get a couple of keycap sets designers in and see what they think. How would you feel about that, A1A? Would that suit? We could ask the question to them.
Yeah, I feel like we'll add that to the news doc, and we'll try to address that in much more detail in a different time with some designers. Maybe I can get in contact with Jay-Chan. How interesting would that be?
It'd be awesome to see him back in the community. Genuinely, it would be really nice to see him back.
If his phone number is still the same, I might be able to get a hold of him. So that could be interesting. But yeah, we'll definitely try to unpack that at a different time, because that's something we could definitely say a lot on. Rather.
Absolutely, yeah.
Shane the Human is asking, there are so many of those. This format is lacking. I learned more today than I usually do for most streams. That's awesome, man.
Thanks, man. Awesome. That's awesome. Glad to
hear
that.
And we've barely talked about like an actual keyboard product or like a key set. Like, we're just talking about like just overarching
topics
things in the community. And yeah, like there's a lot to talk about. There really is, and I feel like a lot of people don't really see it.
Yeah, and the Immortal Bard as well, he says, I'm fairly new to the community and Top Clack, but I've learned so much from this channel. This format is far more interesting because you two are more interested. And that's the whole point, man. We didn't feel like we were putting out good content because we were just literally going through key set IC after key set IC, and we kept making jokes like, oh, here's another GMK set, and
here's GMK Olivia recolored again.
It just felt very negative, and it didn't feel like we were doing justice to those designers, and it didn't feel like we were doing justice to the community, and it wasn't the content we wanted to produce. And this is much more the content we want to produce. So thank you for that. That genuinely means a lot to us.
Honestly, it means a lot. Hearing that kind of support is like, some people are like, do you get sick of hearing it? No, I don't get sick of that at all. If you're liking it, if you're enjoying it, let us know. And if you're not, that's fine too. We're always open for constructive criticism too.
Yeah, Zoomwalt comes in with the next question. He says, what's your take on doing Muted with a different name? No one has copyright on a colorway. No, but it's more of an ethical question. Just because someone doesn't have a legal stand on it doesn't mean to say they don't have a moral stand on it. And that's probably not one for us to say. I think if someone did run Muted, it would run very well, but I don't know if many vendors would be interested in running it themselves because they wouldn't want to step on other people's toes. Respect goes a long way, and that should be something that you take into consideration.
Yeah. All right. Existentially Yours says, surprise, surprise. I love the existential and philosophical conversations. Awesome. I do too, because like in my life, like outside of keyboards in my life right now, like this is what I'm really interested in. is like everything going on in the world, and like what are people doing and why are they doing the things that they're doing, and things like that, like existentialism and just like philosophy and everything surrounding that kind of thing, non-religious spirituality and stuff like that. Like a lot of it's really really interesting to me, and I'm kind of taking that approach with keyboards now as well, and it feels good. It feels good to not just be like here's this keyboard. Here's how we feel about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Man,
talk
that was
about the
getting
things that we
stale.
want to talk about because we're interested in them means way more to us. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And Retney or Retney 01 says, my only complaint about Top Clack is I want more of it. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
We will be doing more. There will be. We've had a bit of a hiatus with shows because of Brian moving and me moving warehouse and my streaming setup, and then Brian injuring himself and us wanting to just rebrand a little bit and change around. But we are back on track now. Shows will be much more regular, and we don't intend to skip shows or anything else. So yes,
I'm in my new place, and my office is still in the process of being set up, but I set up enough to get the show out today. So we're making progress, moving forward. We're definitely planning on another episode next week. I have a couple build streams upcoming. I have to set up my my camera and my lights still. So that's coming soon, but definitely more content coming soon. And we have a pretty nice topic list for you guys with some good guests lined up that I think you guys are going to really appreciate. I'm looking forward to some of them, well, all of them really, but
absolutely,
there's some good ones.
Yeah. Congrats on the new place, says the Immortal Bard. Yes, I think Brian's going to do a tour soon, and if you were interested, I did a tour of the workshop here, the office space and the workshop as well, last week on my build stream, so you can check that out, and you can check Brian's upcoming tour stream as well. That'll happen soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds freaking good. Scrubby Sean is asking, off-topic question, but what chairs do you guys use?
Hold on, I will get you a link.
I need a new chair because I've been using one of these like kind of cheesy like gaming chairs because I couldn't really afford like a super nice one. I think this one's from Maxonomic, but it's been around for like 4 or 5 years now, and it's seen better days. And I'm starting to need a new chair.
Sure.
My
best purchase.
My
this
butt
year
hurts a
was the
lot
chair I'm
sitting in
using
this. I need a nice chair.
Well, I can really recommend the Newy chair, which is the one I've just linked to in chat. I bought that this year. It is genuinely the best purchase I've made all year. Even probably a better purchase than the new workshop truck, which I really love, because this chair it's changed the game for me.
It's like not thousands of dollars either. Nice.
No. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. It's pretty affordable. I've got the version with the headrest as well, which is important for me. The tilt on it, the relaxation, everything. It's just genuinely really really nice. I can't recommend that chair enough. And one of the problems I had with my old chair was I would tend to get quite sweaty on the backs of my legs because it was leather and leatherette, and this is all mesh. It's much cooler to sit on. It's much more comfortable for long sessions, and genuinely I don't realize how much I'm sat here in this chair. It's 100% the best purchase I've made this year. I've also suffered with less back pain since I bought this as well, because it's got proper back support, which is really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check this out. This seems pretty interesting. Yeah,
Aerons are nice, but they don't fit my body shape and body style. I'm not the tallest of guys, so the Aeron isn't quite for me. I'm probably a bit too short for the Aeron personally. But the Herman Miller chair, the range as a whole, is pretty good.
You can get refurbed Aerons for sub 500. Oh, that's okay. Okay, now you're starting to speak my language. I like the value. Zoom Walt is asking, Pudsey said this week that he was looking to maybe run Muted round 2 next year, by the way. Interesting.
Yeah, hey, if it happens, it happens. Yeah.
Anywhere there is tech companies. I should be on the lookout for, I guess, some refurbed Herman Millers. Anyways, I feel like we're just starting to rant off about chairs now, and we should probably end the stream while we're only a little bit over time.
We should do, yeah. Herman Miller's chairs are so much harder to get here in the UK, and there is nothing like the aftermarket prices that you guys can get. And shipping from the US to the UK is so expensive for a heavy item that. So yeah, sadly I couldn't, but I managed to get this for like, I think it was like £400, which yeah, it's the best purchase I've made all year. I'm actually going to buy one of these for my home office as well, so I've got two, the same chair in both, because it's just the most comfortable thing I've ever sat in. It's just really nice.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, so upcoming streams, Brian, you got anything upcoming that you want to share?
I have multiple build streams, but I can't put an exact day on them yet because I still have some setting up to do, and my knees are still healing. It's like I need to go back and elevate and ice it like right after the stream. So like,
yeah, you should do that.
Yeah, I can already feel it like swelling up a little bit more just because I've been sitting here for a couple hours now. So I'm gonna go take care of that. But you know, hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to do some more build streams. So that's the plan as I kind of finish setting things up. I'm just looking for someone to raid in here now because I want to get in the habit of raiding people. You know, as we head out.
Cool. Well, while you're looking at that, I'll just plug my stream on Sunday. So I'll be doing a build stream on Sunday. It's going to be one of two builds. It's either going to be a personal build from my collection. Oh, my camera's frozen as well. Hold on. Or alternatively, hopefully you guys have still got my audio. Or alternatively, it's going to be a duck octagon, which will be a customer build. So I'm just waiting for that to come through in the post. So yeah, if that arrives tomorrow or Saturday morning, I'll be building that. If not, I will be building one of my my own personal boards. But I'll definitely have a build stream. And maybe we'll do a bit of it because I didn't have the shop truck then. Maybe we'll do a quick shop truck tour as well because I'd like to show you guys the truck.
Nice. Your camera froze, but it didn't freeze on a particularly funny frame. So I feel like we were cheated a little bit. I feel like when a camera freezes...
I think I got lucky there, didn't I?
You got lucky. We did not get lucky because I feel like when a camera freezes, it needs to freeze on a frame that makes you look absolutely moronic or ridiculous. And that's just how it should work. And it goes for me too and everyone else. So I feel like that needs to be a thing. But sadly, we don't get that lucky. People are saying, Max is live? Okay, I like Max. And he's building an Allison proto right now. That's okay.
We should definitely check that out. I've got an Allison up on my wall here, so yeah, definitely we should check that out. Oh, my camera's back. Back.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, that is going to be it for the stream today. Stick around. We're going to be raiding Max F live, and he's going to be building an Allison proto, which is going to be really, really cool. That's a board I've been wanting to check out as well. That's Mr. Petrov's board, which is really cool. So we're going to go over and say some wholesome things to him and tell him how, I don't know, how nice his hair looks or something. We're going to give him some kind of compliment, the top Clack way. This is what we do. So we're going to head over there and have a good time and hang out in his chat. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show today as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. It's been a breath of fresh air doing this new format. So to all of you that are still sticking around and appreciate this kind of thing, big thumbs up to you. Glad to have you around and definitely look forward to more and better stuff in the coming days and weeks and months.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. We genuinely appreciate it. And go and tell Max how lovely his hair looks.
We've got to tell him how, let's focus on his hair. It's some great hair.
Just his hair, yeah. That's what we focus on.
Yeah. Check below this stream, though, and you can see our YouTube channel, but you can check out all of our VODs get posted there, as well as some other stuff here and there. And you can also join our official Discord server, and you can come talk about, I don't know, your favorite Indian cuisine, or, your...
Pizza versus burgers.
Or, pizza versus burgers, or keyboards. There's something for everyone there, of course. So come on down and have a good time. And, until then, let's go check out Max.
See you guys.
Let's get this raid going. Join the raid. All right.
Raiding Max on a Friday morning.
I'm gonna try not to forget running the outro this time.
Wait, is this still live? Oh, this is still live. Damn.
We're still live for a second.
Yeah, hold on. Wow.
It's fine. We already know how great of a sticker you are. It's all good.
Rip.
Don't worry, Jay. We still love you.